Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Representing District 1, Harry Cohen. Representing District 2, Ken Hagan. Representing District 3, Gwen Myers. Representing District 4, Michael Owen. Representing District 5, Donna Cameron Cepeda. Representing District 6, Pat Kemp. Representing District 7, Joshua Wostel. The County Administrator is Bonnie Wise. The County Attorney is Christine Beck. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue. So we have time for everyone. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Today's meeting is brought to you with closed captioning by Hillsborough Television.
Good morning and welcome to the August 16, 2023 regularly scheduled board meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge you in all of our ways. We thank you for your great love that you have for each and every one of us. We pray for your protection over our military, law enforcement, firefighters, and all first responders. We thank you for your blessing over everyone in Hillsborough County, and we pray that it is well with everyone in their spirit, soul, and body. And we pray for and speak and declare protection and prosperity over all of Hillsborough County. And we thank you for your blessing over this meeting. In your holy name, amen. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. We have 3 special recognitions this morning. Before we do that, Commissioner Owen is participating virtually, so if we could have a roll call to establish attendance.
Chair Hagan.
Here.
Cameron Cepeda.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Kemp.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Owen.
Here.
Wastel.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
All right, thank you. We have, like I said, we have 3 special recognitions this morning, and the first commendation will be presented by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would Pastor Alfred Johnson, founder and president of Faith Action Ministry Alliance, and Kevin Cook, the Alliance's chief developer, please join me at the podium? Good morning. Good morning and welcome. It's an honor to present this recognition to a man who has devoted his life to service, especially through his organization, Faith Action Ministry Alliance Incorporated. His work has been instrumental in the Grant Park community. He has led public cleanup drives, provided quality education for children, helped families in need, and performed other acts of service that have made our community thrive. I'm pleased to read this commendation, which honors the commitment of this wonderful person. It reads, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is pleased to recognize Alfred Johnson for his hard work and dedication to his community, most notably through his organization, the Faith Action Ministry Alliance Incorporated. Pastor Johnson has been a lifelong symbol of service and generosity to all. As the founder of Faith Action Ministry Alliance, also known as FAMA, he has dedicated himself to strengthening the organization's benevolent mission of growing stronger neighborhoods through the power of networking, business development, and strategic community connections. Pastor Johnson led the dramatic beautification and cleanup drives in the picturesque Grant Park community, resulting in significant savings to the county and city budgets and enhancing the morale of residents and visitors. Under his expert leadership, FAMA fosters the educational needs of the young through its after-school and tutoring programs, youth trade, mentoring outings, and most notably, the Grant Park Christian Academy, which encourages character-based education, civic duty, and family engagement. Additionally, he and the organization promote the importance of volunteering to families, host health fairs that raise awareness about how to build healthy lifestyles, and empower seniors to re-enter the workforce. After nearly 20 years of pastoring and 9 years of guiding the Faith Action Ministry Alliance, Pastor Johnson and FAMA have enhanced prosperity for the people they serve. The Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby commend Alfred Johnson for his commitment to FAMA and the community, and wishes him continued success for many years to come. Executed the 16th day of August, 2023. Pastor Johnson, thank you for all that you've done for our community. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Of course, it always feels good to be honored by your fellow man, especially this distinguished board. Thank you very much for the recognition. You know, I heard a man say one time before, I think his name was Stephen Grellet. He said it like this: I expect to pass through this world but once. Any good thing, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness I can show to any fellow human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. You know, and in light of that, every day should be a day of legacy, a day where we're passing on something to our children, paving the way forward for the young, and making it more prosperous for them. It's been a pleasure to serve our county for all of these years. What we're doing in Grant Park, we take great pleasure and pride in. The children are just being transformed. It's a beautiful thing. I look 20 years into the future at the outcomes of the education that we're providing and the services that we're doing in Grant Park, and I anticipate a greater, more beautiful, and a more peaceful Grant Park. I think those children are going to be a benefit to our community and to our society. You'll not be threatened by them. The children are prospering and doing well. Again, I'm very glad to have been honored by the County Commission. This is what a privilege. My wife is also here. I've been married for 34 years. I have 6 children. 3 of them are here right now, sitting in the back. I'm a happy man, everyone. And I have my little granddaughter here as well. And of course, you do know that there's no way you can affect an entire community without having a team around you. And most of my team is here in the front. And then we have others that are partners that work with us in the community. Stuff can't be done alone. You need good people. I want to encourage all the fellow citizens of Hillsborough County, let's dive in. We're only going to pass through this world one time. Let's leave a proper legacy. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Cook, would you like to say something about Mr. Johnson as well?
Absolutely. I think, again, thank you, Board of Commissioners, Commissioner, just amazing. Thank you so much for this opportunity and this honor. I find myself as the newest member of the team. You would think I wouldn't have anything to say, but I'm trying to not say everything that I'm thinking, and my relationship with Pastor already. One of the amazing things that I've enjoyed so much about my new time here is this resonance of 3 things that Pastor seems to carry. My father always used to tell me that, you know, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. It's really, really hard for the devil to hit a moving target. And if that's the case, this is why you've been so blessed. He is a man of vision, and that vision realizes it needs a team to manifest itself and to work. He has assembled one of them, God, I believe God's assembled one of the most amazing teams, and I get to be part of that team as chief developer. It's a really an amazing portion to see where the elements of county and civics and faith and community come together and work so strategically well. But it's not so much what we're given, and even sometimes it's not so much what we do, but it's oftentimes, as we're going about the manner of our day, it's the spirit and heart in which we do it that has its greatest impact. And I've seen through the work in FAMA, just as a small piece of this amazing spectrum, I've seen three elements come to pass. As a pastor myself, I understand there is a charge. Paul, in the Bible, he talks about this assignment. And he was talking to one of his youngest students, Timothy. And he said, you've got to guard what's been entrusted to you. And the spirit in which pastor has guarded that legacy and protected it, not only for his family, but for the benefits of everyone who has come into his path, has amazed me, even in this short time of getting to know you, brother. And further to that point, there are three elements that I love in his consistent heart.
Pastor, we don't want to cut you off, but we do need to keep moving.
Love has to be genuine.
So, thank you,
and
sir.
his heart is genuine. His love, and he instills hope, and I pray that he will continue to inspire hope in this community and in this county. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Pastor Johnson will take a picture over here with the county commissioners and everybody you have with you, if you'd like to join in the photo as well.
They do it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The team?
The rest. Everybody, yeah. Everybody gets
Okay. Okay. Keep getting that. Thank you, Commissioner. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Commissioner Myers will present the next proclamation.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Would Albert Lee, President of the Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation, please join me at the podium? Good morning, and it's always a pleasure to see you. Black-owned businesses are a pillar of our community, regardless of the challenges they have faced. These businesses and their founders have fought hard to achieve economic and cultural prosperity. I can't think of a better way to honor these businesses than to present this proclamation to Mr. Lee, declaring August as Black Business Month. This is an annual celebration that recognizes Black entrepreneurs and their contribution to America's economy. In addition to their hard work, dedication, and accomplishments. And the proclamation reads, whereas Black-owned businesses are key contributors to the economy of the United States, the state of Florida, and Hillsborough County. And whereas approximately 10% of all U.S. businesses and 30% of all minority-owned U.S. businesses are Black-owned and serve numerous industries, including construction, defense, security, engineering, financial services, healthcare, hospitality, information technology, and professional services. And whereas recognizing August as Black Business Month, acknowledging the importance of Black-owned businesses in all they represent, and is an opportunity to show support for businesses that have been historically underrepresented in the marketplace, and whereas the occasion shows support for and celebrates the contributions of Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs who provide a significant number of goods and services to the economy and jobs for residents. And whereas the county's Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise Program and the following organizations strongly support Black-owned businesses and their economic impact: the Black Business Investment Fund, Florida State Minority Supplier Development Council, Hillsborough County Black Chamber of Commerce, Minority Enterprise Development Corporation, NAACP, Hillsborough County Branch, PFC Black Chamber of Commerce, Tampa Bay, Small Business Development Center at Hillsborough County, Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation, Tampa Bay Black Chamber of Commerce, Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce Minority Business Accelerator, and the Urban League of Hillsborough County. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby declare August 2023 as Black Business Month in Hillsborough County and urges all residents to recognize the value of Black-owned businesses and their important role in the county, state, and national economy. Executed the 16th day of August 2023. Have my staff. Come on, Robbie. Good morning. Thank you for sharing it. You might want to take a picture looking this way. I know you. Okay. Thank you. So, Mr. Lee, we know that you do so much here in Hillsborough County, making sure, as I listen to your radio shows on WTMP every weekend, you're making sure that Black businesses know what's going on in the community, knows what's going on in our community, and how we can support Black-owned businesses. So I'm going to ask you to share a few words with us at this time.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Myers, and I want to thank you very much for thinking it not robbery to honor these businesses and to honor Black Business Month. And I also want to thank Ken Jones and the team, and Ron Barton and Ms. Cheryl Howell. All of you guys do things to help move things forward in this county when it supports Black business. So thank you very much for doing that. And to the other folks that she called out, there was a number of organizations. Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation just happens to be one. Believe it or not, we're celebrating 36 years. August happens to be our organizing month. That was the month in which the organization was founded back in 1987. So it's very befitting that it occurred during Black Business Month, which was started in 2004. And so I don't think they knew that, but I think it was one of those things that was destiny. So I'd like all of the folks that she called, all of the organizations that are represented, to please stand up. These are the folks that make it happen. So just as been said before, it does not happen with one person or one group. It takes the entire village to make that happen. And so this is part of the village that makes these things happen for Black businesses. As Commissioner Myers outlined during her speech, Black business has a very important role in business here in Hillsborough County and throughout the nation. Hillsborough County has a great tradition of Black-owned businesses, particularly here in the city of Tampa. Central Avenue was a burgeoning Black business district until its demise in the 1960s. Being a boy here and growing up here in Tampa, you know, I can't sit there and not recall some of the businesses that I remember as a boy. We just lost one of our icons here in Tampa, Robert Cole. Robert Cole died at the age of 99, and Mr. Cole was probably one of the most celebrated business owners here in town. There was not an elected official that probably did not court him for their support in our community in his number of years. And of course, me as a boy, I always called him God-Dad. He as a boy, you know, he started cutting my hair, and he was a mentor to me for many, many years. And then, of course, with my own family, my grandfather was in the produce business. He was an entrepreneur. My father had a painting business for a number of years. And so entrepreneurship kind of runs through not only my blood, but it runs through our community. When I think in terms of Black-owned businesses, if you want some great barbecue and you have not gone to Big John's Alabama Barbecue, which is probably one of the longest lasting businesses here in the Tampa Bay area, you've got to do that. If you want to know what's going on in the black community, you got to go see and read the Florida Sentinel. It's been around for a very long time, and they tell you everything that's going on in our community. Of course, if you want your nice programs printed, you got to go see Saul Davis over at Saul Davis Printing. And then, of course, if you want to know where all these little small businesses are that perhaps you won't see, then you have Candy Low and the Black Business Bus Tour that put people on buses and take them around to make sure that these businesses are recognized and have customers. So there are a lot of things that go on in our community. We are experiencing a tremendous amount of growth in black-owned businesses. People are coming to the Tampa Bay area for that reason, because of the things that are going on here in Tampa. It is a beautiful place, it's a beautiful economy, and we're so excited to be just one small part of what's going on here in black business in Hillsborough County. So we thank you, Commissioner. And Ken Jones, I want to thank Ken for not finding it robbery to have us here.
And thank you so much, Albert, for your comments. I'm going to ask all of the organizations of black-owned business to come up and to join us in the picture, please. Come on up.
I just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, Commissioner
I
Campbell.
just wanted to thank you, Commissioner Myers, for bringing this forward, but also for that little history lesson there on the generational entrepreneurship in this community, and that was very inspired. Thanks.
It's good to see this morning one of our former county employees, Jacqueline Barr here, who spearheaded, along with Spencer Albert, our Minority Business Enterprise Program. So good to see you. Come on back. I know, it's okay. We're all family on both sides. Make it small. I know, make a small picture. Again, congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. It's my pleasure to present our last commendation this morning, recognizing some exceptionally bright Steinbrenner High School students. Would the following students please join me at the podium? Ava Muniz, Jorge Munoz, Jason Couture, Eric Nieto, and Adrian Salazar. We also have with us instructor Stephen Noto and Principal Tiffany Ewell. If you could please join me. We're pleased Principal Ewell could join us. I know fifth day of school, she's got a lot going on, but thank you for taking time to come down. Steinbrenner High School is known for its excellence in numerous fields, most notably academia and sports. This year, they were recognized as superstars in science, specifically robotics. The Steinbrenner Warriors face intense competition from around the world at the JROTC VEX Robotics National Competition, and the results were nothing short of amazing. It's my honor to present this commendation to these champions at Steinbrenner High School. It reads, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is pleased to congratulate Steinbrenner High School for winning the JROTC VEX Robotics National Championship, the first time a Florida-based team earned this prestigious honor. Every year, the JROTC VEX Robotics National Competition brings together the finest scientific teams from around the world to celebrate their skills and compete for the division and national championships. One such talented team was the Steinbrenner High School Warriors, who faced off against 130 other JROTC teams from the U.S. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Space Command. Each student demonstrated their innovative robotic genius in numerous title matches, defeating every formidable opponent. At the end of the competition, the Steinbrenner Warriors won the divisional championship and were named the 2023 national champions. After winning these competitions, all members of the Steinbrenner High School robotics team were eligible for scholarships through the Robotic Event Competition Foundation, a testament to their achievements. The Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida does hereby commend Steinbrenner High School for its latest achievement and wishes its student champions the best in their academic endeavors executed the 16th day of August 2023. And on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, I want to say just how proud we are of each and every one of you. And it's my pleasure to present this. I think it's going to go to the team builder. Ava, is that you? Can I present this to you? And if you please say a few words.
Thank you so much for having me today. I have prepared a speech. So when asked to give a speech to the Board of County Commissioners today regarding STEM and my experience this past year, I was a bit skeptical. I was never a part of STEM and never felt that I had the resume nor the tools to be equipped enough for the program. I was never very good at math, and while I liked science, it wasn't generally my area of expertise. So if someone told me a year ago that I would have had the pleasure to not only go to a national competition in Dallas, Texas, but also had the opportunity to make it to the finals with my sister team as my opponent, let's just say I wouldn't have believed them. When entering our JROTC program at Steinbrenner my freshman year, I wasn't sure if I'd be the right fit. I never had a niche for the military, nor did I see myself being involved in anything other than the class itself. So as I said before, I never anticipated my involvement in robotics. The process in which we as a team went through during the duration of this year was lengthy. And while I can only speak for myself in this matter, I don't think it would be too far off to say it was also very demanding for both of our teams. It started off simple, or so we thought, with our first competition in October of last year. But little did we know, both teams were stepping into a lion's den that day. With confidence and what we thought was knowledge in our designs, quickly turned into a realization that that competition at University Mall was only a minute piece to what we now know was an extravagant puzzle we were made out to solve before April. An additional piece that wasn't set into place until many competitions later was our numerous amounts of builds and modifications that we would do to our robots not only during the season, but also extemporaneously during competitions. Said modifications on the robots regarding things like code, build, and anything quote-unquote STEM related was mostly done by my teammates. That being said, you're probably wondering what my role was on the team. What was my contribution? The wide range of opportunities during last year turned my insecurity of not knowing much about the STEM qualities mentioned earlier into a specific kind of confidence only one accomplishes when they're in their element. My element, per se, was speaking, communications, and the realization that I didn't have to be an expert in a certain field to succeed or to be of help of my team opened a realization that the walls of STEM are much broader than I could have ever imagined. And if I've learned anything from the past year, from my personal experience, it's that STEM has more to offer than its acronym. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics provides a broader, wider range of opportunities to those involved than what it's accredited for. This past year, STEM has given me the opportunity to improve my leadership and communication skills, as well as actively learn how to overcome and thrive in disastrous situations. While I don't plan on basing my life on a STEM major or occupation in the foreseeable future, the tools and resources I had access to because of my experience in the field will be things I will carry on with me for the extent of not only my career, but my personal life as well. My involvement in this program has shaped not only me, but those around me, who have also had the pleasure of this experience into better students, and eventually we will grow to be better adults who are well-rounded individuals. Regardless of the industry, major, or occupation we as STEM kids choose later on in our life, the importance of the lesson learned during our experience will always be relevant. Thank you.
Well, Ava, let me say your element is amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, Principal Yule, you want to say a few words?
First of all, how lucky am I that I get to work with these kids every day? I really have just the best job. Steinbrenner High School is an amazing school, but anyone that questions the youth and what our future looks like with them leading the way needs to meet kids like this, because I feel very confident in our future because I get the privilege of working with them every day. I can't even tell you when I was on campus how many hours they spent in that room working on this robot and redesigning it and getting it ready to go. So the work ethic that they've learned, the communication skills, the dedication, the perseverance through, they tell the stories about when things didn't go so well. Those are going to be skills that no matter what they do when they leave the halls of Steinbrenner High School are going to bring them a great deal of success in the future. So I'm very, very proud of them. And then I also have to just point out Sergeant Nato too. I think you're going to get a moment to speak, but none of this would have been possible without him. He came to the school a few years ago with the vision to build our robotics program because he knew what it would bring to our students. And so his dedication also is the reason why they're standing here today with that trophy. So I really am very appreciative of both the employees that I get to work with and what they envision for our youth, and then our youth rising to the task and getting it done. So thank you.
Sergeant Nato, you want to close this out?
Thank you, everybody. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners for this great commendation here. It's a fantastic award for these guys. They really worked their butts off on this. A lot of hours, weekends, even over holidays. They put in a lot of hours. I missed a lot of stuff at home because of this. But this is what we accomplished right here, which has been fantastic. I want to thank a couple of people. Because I could not have done this by myself. It's definitely not just me alone. First, I want to thank Ms. Ewell for all the support that the school's given me. Colonel Tucker, my district Army instructor, for all the support. Jan Wheeler, who's here, who I pester all the time about my new equipment. And then a couple of parents that helped me out throughout the year, Ms. Salazar and Ms. Nieto. If it weren't them, these kids probably wouldn't get fed on our trips and stuff like that. So I just want to thank everybody for your acknowledgement of my cadets. Thank you.
You always travel with moms and they have lots of campus. Thank you so much.
All right, Bonnie, want to review the changes to the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one item that has been deferred to September 7th. This is item 827, which is to approve the first modification of the agreement with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. And then we have several items for time certain. Item D1 at 10 o'clock is to conduct a public hearing to establish separate uniform rates for the various street lighting classifications for the 2023 tax year. Item D2 at 10 a.m. is to hold a public hearing and adopt the solid waste rate resolution, which establishes the solid waste non-ad valorem disposal and collection assessment rates, other user fees and charges, and the solid waste disposal and collection rolls. At 10:45, we have item E1. This is related to item B2, which is a special appearance by Tom Morrison, General Counsel to the Hillsborough County Industrial Development Authority, to discuss BOC consideration of an application submitted by H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center for the issuance by Pasco County of not exceeding $200 million in revenue bonds. Item B2, as I mentioned, related to item E1, is at 10:45. To approve a portion of the not to exceed $200 million of Pasco County, Florida hospital revenue bonds to finance the costs of certain hospital and healthcare research facilities and related equipment for Moffitt Cancer Center. Item G2 at 11 o'clock is to receive a report on the summary finding for unmarked burial grounds on county-owned properties by Dr. Aaron Kimmerly, Florida Institute of Forensic Anthropology and Applied Science at the University of South Florida. Those are the changes to the agenda.
Have a motion to approve the changes?
Move for approval.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second, Commissioner Kemp. Please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, we'll go into the public comment portion of the agenda. The board welcomes comments from the citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing valuable input. The board members, however, it is requested at the same time you address the board that comments are not directed personally at a commissioner or staff member, but rather directed at the issues. The board has set aside 45 minutes this morning for public comment. The chair will call on speakers by name in the order in which the request to speak have been received. When addressing the board, please state your name and speak clearly in the microphone. Up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. We do have 20 folks that have signed up this morning. If everyone does not take the full 3 minutes, we should be able to get everyone in. The first 3 speakers are Bradley LaHue, followed by Norrin Dollard, which is virtual, and then David Coleman.
Bradley, should I just step up here?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. First, I just want to thank all the staff and all the commissioners for your hard work, your patience, your attention, and what I know can be, dragging public comments where you have to listen to whatever issues we we think are important. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Bradley LaRue. I've been a Hillsborough County resident for about 18 years, which is ever since I moved here to attend University of South Florida. Go Bulls. My wife and daughter are not super thrilled that I'm here today because it means I'm going to be doing some extra work to make up for this time during my workday, but I think it's important. Our county just redrew our commission districts about 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, actually, to account for change over the last decade or so in population and density, et cetera. Now some members of the board are want to redraw the districts again and are in a rush to do it before the next election. I just want to tell you, I don't think this is a priority for the people of this county. And we as voters like being able to pick a majority of the people who represent us on this board, and we don't like this proposal where board members are going to get to pick their voters. That's sort of the opposite of how we like things to be. Furthermore, I really feel strongly that the Board of Commissioners should not charge us $1.5 million to $2.5 million for us to tell you this. We're here telling you. And that's only to put it on the ballot, right? So the report that you're going to hear later today, drawn up by staff, describes $1.5 to $2.5 million to put it on the ballot. If it passes, then we're looking at about $1 million a year in added costs. Please don't. The districts are fine, and I just want to point out that every single one of you commissioners was elected by the people of Hillsborough County to serve us, and I think you should have some confidence that if you do a good job, you're going to be reelected. That's all I have to say. I'll leave the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaRue. Norrin Dollard, virtual, followed by David Coleman, and then Teresa Potter.
Commissioner Norrin has not checked.
Bryn Dollard, I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Hillsborough and Pasco County. I speak also, like the gentleman before me, to item G1, redistricting to single-member districts. I come to ask you to halt consideration of the 9-member Board of County Commissioners composed of single-member districts until a full and thorough discussion of the proposal can be had. That's my number one ask. What is the rush? As a member of the League, I come here first and foremost to insist that the rush to bring this before the voters without full consideration disenfranchises our voters. The proposal to conduct a special election in January means having to notice things in the middle of the holiday season, which is when we are not paying attention to our government. The further possibility of a mail-in only election adds insult to injury when mail voting is subject to strict Florida laws, with ballots having to be requested every election cycle. To my first point, what is the hurry? The March primary is problematic because of a low voter turnout and single-party emphasis. Our no-party affiliation voters, which comprise nearly 1/3 of Hillsborough's voters, and our Democratic voters, 35%, won't have the same incentive to go to the polls during a primary, Republican primary. Then there are very short deadlines between the primary vote certification and the supervisor of elections need for the redistricting data. 1 week. Again, to my initial point, what is the hurry? There's confusion with the March election. In the report you will review today, there's discussion of drawing the redistricting maps before the amendment. It goes to the voters. Seems like it would add unnecessary confusion to the voters to ask them to discuss something that may not come to pass. It has not come to pass in 2 charter review board cycles, both in 2015 and 2020. As the gentleman before me just pointed out, we just redistricted 2 years ago, and the process of public review and comment began in August and concluded in November. 3 months, not 1 week. What is the hurry? Finally, talking about representation, currently everyone has 4 commissioners representing them. If approved, they will have only 1. The only county with 9 single-member districts is Broward, and they did not go from a mixed system to a single-member district. They increased the number of their districts. Perhaps not a good comparison. And finally, the mixed model with its at-large representation affords a countywide perspective, which is vital for the issues that affect us all, regardless of geography, such as infrastructure and healthcare, while preserving the more personal representation afforded by the single-member district. This proposal, should it go forward, should it be considered fully, would be more appropriate for the 2024 general election, or else wait for the next charter review.
David Coleman, Teresa Potter, followed by Fran Bodman. Good morning, Mr. Coleman.
Hello, Dave Coleman. Some agenda items. On D2, please don't charge elders on Social Security $87 more a year for trash collection, or our kids $1 more for lunch in A4. A28 and 29, I didn't know the Salvation Army became a government agency. And the Cove, what else will you do to save us from evil migrants? A pastor came here in a town hall asking if he needed to check the status of his congregation. I guess so, if someone attending the Religious Sally Help program is told they need to self-report to attend services. I attended the future land use meeting and the BOCC Parks and Recreation meetings. The Parks meeting was billed as being part ELAP, so I was very interested. There was only a 2-minute report on the current $33 million. The next 2 hours was sickening. Concern over an undated concession contract began a browbeating of coaches and Parks Department workers. It went on for 90 minutes. Finger pointing and the words malicious lies were used. And when sex harassment was brought up and dismissed as none of the county's business, a female member began to disagree and was shut down quickly by 3 men saying they weren't going to have that conversation. It was a public meeting, no broadcast or recording. Public comment was invited. It was not ADA compliant. Even with the hearing aids that I have, much of it was inaudible until your guys started yelling. Does anyone here think the coaches and salaried parks people working often 7 days a week until 9 p.m. are evil? If you have an issue, please try and solve it. It has also come to my attention that the Florida Institute of Community Studies that has rented Morgan Woods Park for 7 years is losing its lease, which means that children and families in town and country are losing access to services. Just so the park can be used for offices, the park should be for people. At the FLU meeting, it became completely obvious there wasn't one mark on the map, not one word said about future land use in the urban core or central unincorporated Hillsborough County. In fact, one voice had said that Brandon is a mess, ignore it, let's fix East County. You represent all of Hillsborough County, not just South County. If you want to plan something, perhaps doing a study with Thea on the crosstown expansion would have been in order since 2019 when it was first proposed. A study has never been done. And on A40, maybe an in-house sprinkler repair apprentice program for young people might be cheaper than $1 million for a guy working out of his garage in Pasco County. If a vote goes forward for 9 members, the primary ballot would be an obvious attack on our very democracy. I might not have been clear when I called it a smash and grab last meeting. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Teresa Potter, followed by Fran Bodman, and then we have Dr. James Davison, who's virtual. Good morning, Ms. Potter.
Good morning. I'm Teresa Potter, President of the League of Women Voters of Hillsborough and Pasco counties. As mentioned earlier by Noreen Dollard, the League is very concerned about the proposal to fast track a substantial amendment to the county charter that would reduce voter representation. In 1983, when 3 Hillsborough County commissioners went to jail due to widespread corruption, the League was involved in the discussions that followed. Several years of community discussions resulted in a system that ensures every voter gets to vote for a majority of commissioners. The Charter Review Board was also put in place to meet every 5 years to review county governance. Any consideration of moving forward with a truncated process of amending the charter outside of the processes put in place to protect the citizens of Hillsborough County must have stated reasons that are equally weighted. What reason is equal in weight to foregoing democratic process? In addition to the reduction in representation from 4 commissioners to 1 for each voter and the process being rushed, other concerns are the expenditure of millions of dollars and lack of public awareness. The report states that a March election does not allow enough time to vet redistricting maps and that Hillsborough County taxpayers must foot the costs if a special election in January. A minimum of $1.5 million for a mail-in ballot only guinea pig election, or $2.5 million for a full election in a month when nobody typically votes and probably won't be aware there's an election. It hasn't even been 2 years since Hillsborough County taxpayers footed the bill to implement new county commission maps using updated population counts from the 2020 census. A vote on moving forward on this should not be done without taking all costs into consideration. We would request that you ask for a full accounting of how much the redistricting process cost in 2021. What were the total costs, including staff time and outside contracts to develop the maps and fully vet them, providing citizens with months to review them and provide input? A process that is necessary each time voter districts are redrawn. Our league and other nonpartisan groups endorsed the maps implemented in 2021 and applauded the county's efforts to include all citizens in the process. Added to all of those costs is the nearly $250,000 in renovation costs and $1 million in ongoing annual costs for the addition of 2 commissioners and their aides. Is there not a better use for $4 million in taxpayer funds? For redistricting that was just done, and a charter amendment that was voted down by the Charter Review Board in both 2015 and 2020. One final point. As Noreen mentioned, countywide representation is important to ensure a countywide perspective is applied to important issues like transportation, water, resources, and healthcare. And it's also important to know that research shows countywide races favor better gender representation as well. The League asks the county to continue its tradition of taking the time to include its citizens in a full review of charter amendments and redistricting processes, and that any vote on these issues should be done at an election with the highest possible voter turnout. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Potter. Fran Bodman, followed by Dr. James Davison and Nina Tatlock. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Fran Bodman. I reside in Wamama. I'm a retired educator from Miami-Dade County. During the last 15 years before I retired in 2005, I taught government and economics to high school seniors. I felt very passionate about teaching my students the importance of civic responsibilities. The greatest honor I had as a teacher of civics was at the end of the year, I registered them to vote. Voting is the most important right for a democracy, and that's why I'm here. I believe that we should not change the structure at this moment and rush through and change the at-large members. By expanding the number of commissioners to 9 single-member districts, you are eliminating the 3 at-large seats, reducing the voice of the people. With a single-member district structure, the voter only has 1 representative on the commission, whereas presently the voter has 3 at-large members and 1 district member. That's 4. Voter representation will be severely reduced by 54%, with 4 commissioners to 11% to one commissioner. Comparing this to Broward County is not a fair equivalency. Broward County has 9 single-member districts, but it has 24 incorporated cities that take care of the issues that Hillsborough County can't. Hillsborough County only has 3 cities: Plant City, Temple Terrace, and Tampa. The rest is unincorporated. And we depend on you to help us with all the issues that are important to us. There should be no rush to change the structure of government in Hillsborough County. You need to have workshops and town hall meetings to explain to the voter how it works and why you want to change the 9 to a 9 single-member district government. In fact, in 2025, a new charter review board will be appointed by you. And this board will have plenty of time to bring in all the information, provide a lot for the public, and have at least 2 hearings. This is what a democracy is about. You were elected to serve the people of Hillsborough County. This is your civic responsibility, not to diminish the people's voice. Thank
Dr.
you.
James Davidson, followed by Nina Tatlock and Chris Vila. Dr. Davidson, are you on the line?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to support the increasing of the number of BOCC members to 9 and to bring
Can't really
government
hear it.
closer
Can
to
we
the people.
get some volume, please?
Hello? Can you hear me?
It's tough, but go ahead, Dr.
Hello?
Davidson, and if staff can try and improve the volume, that'd be helpful.
I'm here today to support the increasing the number of increasing the BOCC members to 9 and then bringing county government closer to the people by making them all individual districts. The rapid growth over the last 30 years demands this. In 1983, when the present charter was passed, and individual districts had about 170,000 people, and countywide had only 670,000 people. Today, 30 years later, a district has over 2 times that amount, or 382,000, and countywide district has 1.5 million. 30 years from now, the individual districts will have over 500,000 per district, more than the city of Tampa, and the county-wides will have over 2 million. Individual districts would almost be as large in population as present-day Wyoming, and county-wide larger in population than the population of 12 states currently. We are electing county commissioners, not congressmen, senators, or governors. By going to 9 individual districts, you return those numbers to the original level passed by the people in 1983 to 170,000 per district, and maintaining a much more manageable level for the next 30 years, it will only increase to about 225,000 by 2050, a much more stable number. That is what the people want, more manageable government and closer to the people. For those concerned about the money, less than 0.5% of the countywide reserve fund pays for the entire cost staff estimates, without interfering with the budget or our credit rating. The money is there and you know it. This issue is more important than transportation, affordable housing, or taxes. This is about how we govern ourselves. Different members of the board throughout the years have stood on the principle of let the people vote on various lesser issues. And if my mind recommends, the sales tax was done in under 4 or 5 months. Let the people vote on this one. May I also add that by increasing the number of positions on the board, you increase the chances of diversity on the board for minorities, LGBTQ, women, everything. In these chaotic times, you can bring us closer together by letting us vote again for a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you very much. Good health and great day.
Thank you, Dr. Davidson. Nina Tatlock, followed by Chris Vela, and then Elizabeth Belcher.
Good morning. My name is Nina Tatlock. I want to speak out against moving to single-member districts. This would reduce the number of county commissioners that voters can vote for, which would reduce each resident's representation. I ask that you not pursue this change due to the expenses to the county and the reduced representation it would mean to each resident. I thank you for your time. I yield my time.
Thank you, Ms. Tatlock. Chris Vela, followed by Elizabeth Belcher, and then Sharon Graham Barrett. Mr. Vela?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This is Chris Vela calling. Zip code 33605 in Ybor in Hillsborough County. I'm calling in regards to G1. You all will be receiving a report from staff which outlines why the election process that this board is inquiring about is bad. For one, usually the PPP, which is the presidential preliminary or presidential primary, is not typically a special election. By accelerating this timetable, you only allow the county 1 week for redistricting. Usually, SOE requires 3 weeks to establish redistricting for the petition process of the election itself. The report also says that it violates numerous codes, the Florida Statute 102.112 and 99.061, including the DOCC charter itself, which is very important because there's a program called UOCAVA, which is Uniform Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. This is mandated by the Department of Justice and the federal government. And by accelerating this process, you're actually putting the county itself in the legal crosshairs, and it's actually codified in our charter. So I'm not sure why y'all want to expose taxpayers and yourselves in this manner. And, you know, I can't help thinking that this is kind of a multi-stage process. This board, unfortunately, all of you guys approved a $2 billion roadway to Southeast County with no plan. And then if you look at the agenda for future items, it looks like urban service boundaries are going to be expanded in Southeast County. So I can't help to think that all of this is leading up to a process of thinking that expanding boundaries and building wider roads is actually going to yield more results for the county, for taxpayers' performance. If we look at Broward County, for example, their budget is only $4.5 billion. Meanwhile, they have a 1.9 million population size. For Hillsborough County, our budget is actually $9 billion. We're double Broward County. And our population is actually only 1.5 million. So you're sitting here talking about the benefits of this. I don't see it. I oppose this. I know you guys are receiving a report, but from the other commissioners sitting across from you guys, I would recommend that you guys do an ROI on this. What are the taxpayer benefits from getting this? Because you already know what the taxpayers cost. People before me have said it's going to cost millions of dollars, and it will cost millions of dollars. But it'd be interesting to see what the ROI is, because when you're talking about Broward County, they're not doing as well as Hillsborough County. And most certainly, I'd rather have a better representation over that additional $4.5 billion.
Thank you, Mr. Vela.
You know, as a taxpayer who votes.
Thank you, sir. Next three speakers, Elizabeth Belcher, followed by Sharon Graham Barrett and Elizabeth Braden.
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Belcher. G1 will result in more taxation with less representation. With a combined BOCC, all citizens have 4 commissioners representing them, 3 countywide and 1 single member. 9 single-member districts will result in only 1 representative for each citizen. Broward County is held up as an example of 9-member single districts. What is not stated, previously Broward County had 7-member single districts, not a combination. So the citizens did not lose any representation, as opposed to the G1, in which citizens will lose representation. Comparing Broward to Hillsborough County is like comparing apples to oranges. Why the rush? Shouldn't the citizens of Hillsborough County have an opportunity to review, discuss, consider such a major change in the county government? Why are you denying the citizens the right to participate in their government? Isn't this what democracy is? Citizens' participation? In my experience, when a proposal is being pushed with no due diligence review, there is a major flaw in the proposal that those in power do not want to be revealed. And with all due respect, the only reason I've heard regarding the need for a single-member district is that representing the county is too hard a job. That reason is unjustifiable. It does not justify the disenfranchisement of citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Sharon Graham Barrett, followed by Elizabeth Braden, and then Antoinette Davis. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sharon Graham Barrett, and I am an 11-year resident and own a private practice here in Hillsborough County. I am urging you to please oppose proposals for all single-member districts. The other large county that employs this proposed model has 24 incorporated municipalities. Hillsborough County, as you know, has only 3. Much too few municipalities for this to work in favor of democratic representation. The staff and SOE report is alarming. Only 1 week to redistrict, avoiding overseas residents, including the military, to vote on this, contradicting statutes, no schedule on board transition and limits, millions of dollars to implement. The proposal would decrease our residents' representation from 4 commissioners that each resident can vote on to just 1. It also allows the current majority to redraw the lines according to their benefit or gerrymander. This is not acceptable. It is egregious. Please oppose the proposals for all single-member districts. We can increase the number of single-member districts without eliminating the county-wide seats and without reducing the number of commissioners that residents vote for. However, this is not what is currently being proposed. Please oppose the proposals for all single-member districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Braden, followed by Antoinette Davis and Rigo Benitez. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Betsy Braden. I'm a resident of Hillsborough County for 23 years. I'm here to speak about item G1, the elimination of countywide commissioner seats. The elimination of these seats is a threat to democracy. These seats were established in the 1980s due to the corruption. Several commissioners went to jail. Now, several commissioners want to eliminate these seats. They are rushing this item through without public review. They want the public to vote on this in January during a primary. They picked this primary due to low turnout of Democrats and no party affiliates. The commissioners will gerrymander to their benefit and leave us with no democracy. Please vote no and keep the democracy in Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Braden. Antoinette Davis, followed by Rigo Benitez and Tina Vazzo.
Good morning. I'm Antoinette Davis. I have a community-based organization that is educating the community on the impact of their social factors and how that comes out in their health. These social factors, such as housing, education, level of income, environment, exposure to criminal justice, and more, are things that we're helping the community to understand that they have personal accountability, as well as the government has a role in removing systemic barriers that have historically harmed certain communities and benefited other communities. I just want to point out that we all have a part to play in solving the problems that we have in our community. Individuals have to make certain decisions, but the government has a role as well. So I come standing with hope and the Envision community to ask the board to invest in affordable housing, acknowledging that housing is health care. The faith community is doing its parts, community-based organization is doing its parts, and the government too has a part to do to bring about large-scale solutions, such as things as investing in affordable housing. I refer to it as an investment intentionally because we know that when we make an investment, there is consideration to the return on that investment. When we consider how decent, affordable housing impact our children, the elderly, working families that cannot afford the exorbitant prices of housing in Hillsborough County, we can all agree that investing in affordable housing yields a great ROI. When our children are exposed to adverse childhood experiences, the damage and long-term harm is a price that is really too high to pay. So again, I ask this board to prioritize investing in affordable housing because housing is health care, and we want to be a healthy Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Rico Benitez, and I'm here to ask the Board of Commissioners to Chair Ken Hagans and Vice Chair Quinn Myers and the rest of the commission boards to reactivate the PACE program for allow Hillsborough County residents to be able to provide solar energy into their homes. I know that in the past it was voted down and is considered controversial for some people, but as we saw the robotics team here, that solar energy is where the future for a lot of people, and especially in the Sunshine State, it'll be a great program to continue. I graduated from Annandale High School, where we were nicknamed the Adams, and it was in 1957 when we had the Adams for Peace with President Eisenhower. So, you know, coming from a country where there was hardly electricity to now the technology that's changed over the years, solar energy is part of our future, and I'm asking you to vote for it, and I thank you for that. And I want to say hi to our friend there. She goes to our church on Sunday, so just want to say hi to you. Anyway, have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Benitez. Tina Vazzo, followed by Geraldine Rogers Toombs and Gabriel Morgan. Good morning.
Good morning, chairs and board members of the Hillsborough Board of County Commissioners. My name is Tina Vazzo, a resident of Brandon. I'm here to request you to please vote to reactivate the Property Assessed Clean Energy PACE program as well for Hillsborough County. With PACE, we can help people have the opportunity to go solar without credit and without Social Security. I feel all people should have the option and the right to have accessibility and affordability for solar energy. Thank you for your time, your support for our rights, and your vote, and may God bless you all. And thank you, Ms. River, as well. We appreciate you. Ms. Donna.
Thank
God bless you.
Geraldine Rogers Toombs, followed by Gabriel Morgan, and then Justin LaRosa. Good morning.
Good morning. First, I would like to thank the former county commissioners that approved the HOPE Fund. Also, I would like to thank you all for your support as well. And the reason that I'm here is because the need for affordable housing, decent affordable housing, is really just a requirement for a good standard of living. And then as I thought about the issue, with everything, the cost of everything rising, gas, almost $4 a gallon. The electric bill, I don't know who approved a 20% increase in that particular utility, but just imagine the cost that all these expenses are having on working class families and low income families, and the cost of food, everything has risen significantly. And so we need the support of this commission to continue to support the Hope Affordable Housing. And so that's the reason why I'm here, is because after I thought about the impact all these expenses are having on families, I mean, I have never seen so much homelessness in our community over the last couple of years. I mean, people sleeping on sidewalks and vacant buildings on their property and things like that. And we need you all to stand behind the people. And it's just a pleasure even to be here to hear some of the issues that have been discussed. But also, when you think about the education of our children and the issue with Just Elementary being closed and some other schools targeted to foreclosure, and then you look at Title I schools where children are not performing up to par, and I was discussing that with the social worker, and she was saying, well, you know, Loretta, a lot of the kids are really homeless, sleeping in other people, you know, piled up at other people's homes or sleeping in cars and all those things. And when you look at that, you cannot expect children to achieve their potential if they don't have the basic necessities. Children need to be raised in stable environments. And then when you look at the criminal element of life, then, you know, what can we do to better those conditions? And, you know, God has called us all for a purpose, and that purpose is to do his will. How do we help our fellow man? He said the poor will always be among us. And, you know, and then I thought about my own lifestyle and where God brought me from, you know, and I said, wow, you know, people need help at times. You know, I was a single parent. These are not things that I normally even talk about, but I was a single parent, and my God, my condition is so much better than it was 30 or 40 years ago. And we need...
And can you please state your name for the record? Can you state your name?
I do apologize.
Okay.
My name is Geraldine Rogers Toombs, and I'm a former county employee, and I thank God for the job. Thank you,
Gabriel
retired.
Morgan, followed by Justin LaRosa, and then Stanley Gray. Good morning.
Good morning. Reverend Dr. Gabriel Morgan of St. Paul Lutheran in Tampa, and I'm also here with the Hillsborough Organization for Progress and Equality to support reapproval of the Affordable Housing Fund. This housing crisis is absolutely brutal, and I'm telling you that I regularly meet people, new people who are newly homeless, not people in my ministry who have been living in a tent in the woods for 10 years, people who are newly homeless because they have seen a rent increase of 50, 60, 100% in some cases, people who work jobs, who are realtors in the city, who do things that you would consider to earn a livelihood that ought to be able to afford a place to live. When they put that Upsky apartment complex in, they had 3,000 applications for 61 units. I'm super excited to see that another 20 million was recently approved, but that was for what, 300 to 400 units, something like that? It's barely scratching the surface. It's excellent progress, but it's barely scratching the surface. And this has affected my family too. My father once lived in a mobile home that had a hole in the floor, and he'd have never complained about it. He's a tough guy, but I'm so glad that he got into veterans housing and he ain't living there anymore. That's not where somebody should live. We're doing a Bible study right now in our church on Genesis, and I'm not going to theologize, but I want to make one quick point. The great reformer Martin Luther, commenting on the story of Joseph, who was sold into slavery in Egypt, but then impressed people so much he became governor and oversaw a food storage program for a famine. Luther loves to say that that illustrates the true purpose of government, to preserve life, okay? It's okay that we depend on government just as we depend on family, friends, and church community. We need each other, and we need these funds reapproved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We got Justin LaRosa, followed by Stanley Gray. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Justin LaRosa. I'm one of the ministers at Hyde Park United Methodist Church, and I'm down at the Portico. I also oversee a social enterprise that helps transition people out of addiction, incarceration, and homelessness and bridges them to new life. And I'm grateful to be here. And, you know, it's maybe one of your favorite parts of the County Commission is the beginning when you get to celebrate all the things going on in the community. I really enjoyed that time. But here's the word that came out for me when I was thinking about it. Legacy. Pastor talked about legacy, didn't he? And we saw about how legacy was being built through the good things going on in the community. And so it got me thinking and grateful for the legacy that happened in 2019 when the HOPE Affordable Housing Act was established as an ordinance to allocate money to create affordable housing for those on the edges or those close to the edges. And so I'm very grateful for that. So here's what I'm asking you. It's very simple. Yes. Say yes on 9/21 when you allocate that money in the 2024 budget. It's not hard. I can tell you tons of stories. I'd be happy to meet with any of you to talk about those things. But if we're going to build a great, thriving city, and we don't want to end up like some of the cities on the that are struggling with so much with homelessness and brokenness and walking through the streets, walking over people. If we want a great city, if we want a thriving city, if we want to build a legacy, it's partially in your hands, friends. And that building block is affordable housing. Because those on the edges, if they don't stay safe, that's what housing provides, what connection, we are going to have difficulties, as we're already seeing. We already know about inflation. We already know about the gentrification and the high prices for rent. Let's help. You can do it. You've already established it. Keep living that legacy. I look forward to your yes vote. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Got Stanley Gray. Stanley here. All right, our last two speakers are Sheila Simmons Tribble and then Robert Bolu, who's virtual. Is Sheila here? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Sheila Simmons Tribble, zip code 33615, a member of HOPE and Bible-Based Fellowship Church, and I'm also the chair of the Affordable Housing Monitoring Committee for HOPE. And I'm here, like my other friends and colleagues, to ask you to support continuing the Affordable Housing Fund. I was here a few weeks ago, and since then, 3 different people have approached me, actually one as I was leaving the building. And this was a single mom of 2, and her rent went up 2 months ago, over $400, up to $500. She is saying, how can I do this? School is starting, and I'm having to think about moving. Then I got a call from a senior citizen who is having to move, and she is so, I can't even begin to tell you how awesome struck she is at the age of 82, looking for some place to live. So this makes me feel and see that some of our residents feel that having affordable housing is literally out of their reach, and that should not happen in our county. Residents are concerned about the availability of affordable housing, and sometimes it is outpacing their concerns and their worries about other local issues and other issues pertaining to them. Sadly, we have been hearing all of the numbers in terms of the different families, and particularly low-income families and seniors having to spend over 30 to 35% of their income on housing. And so what I want to really bring out is, why does all of this matter? This matters really because housing is the key to reducing intergenerational poverty. And when you do that, that also increases economic mobility. Research shows that increasing the access to affordable housing is the most cost-effective strategy for reducing childhood poverty and increasing economic mobility. Children living in a stable house, in a stable home, as my former friend just said, they are more likely then to thrive in school and have greater opportunities to learn inside and outside of the classroom. Another reason why this matters is because increasing access to affordable housing bolsters economic growth. Data shows that the shortage of housing in this country has caused us to lose a lot. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments. Last speaker this morning, is there a Robert that's virtual?
Yes, Robert Boileau. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Just a sec. Okay, so I am Robert Boileau, live in zip code 33614. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa, a member congregation of Hope, the Hillsborough Organization for Progress and Equality. We know that Hillsborough County still needs more affordable housing, and we want our county commissioners to vote to approve the $10 million for affordable housing recommended by county staff in the 2024 county budget. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, sir. All right, that closes the public comment portion of the agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the consent?
Move for approval.
Got a motion to approve the consent, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Kemp. If no comments, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. Bonnie, you want to introduce the first time certain?
Yes, sir. The first item is a 10 o'clock public hearing. This is a public hearing to establish separate uniform rates for various street lighting classifications for the 2023 tax year. Josh Bellotti with Engineering and Operations will present this item. This is a public hearing.
Morning, Josh.
Morning, Commissioners. Josh Bellotti, Engineering and Operations. This is a public hearing to establish the annual rates and adopt the non-ad valorem assessment for the 2023 tax year for the county's residential street lighting special purpose district. Some quick background. The residential street lighting special purpose district is established by ordinance. This is a voluntary program with a high level of participation, about half of all residential parcels in the unincorporated county. And these are spread across nearly 800 street lighting districts. The street lighting equipment and service is provided by TECO. The county's residential street lighting program is essentially a pass-through service in which the county pays the monthly bills directly to TECO and then collects revenue from residents annually through a non-ad valorem tax assessment, which looks like this here on your tax bill. The county is required to hold 2 public hearings each year for street lighting, one in the summer to set the rates for the upcoming tax year, which is what we're doing today. And the second, held later in the year, is to make any modifications or changes to the street lighting districts. The actual annual assessment rates vary significantly across the street lighting districts. And this is because of a number of different factors, which include the type of equipment selected, which can be standard wood or concrete poles, or a variety of different types of premium decorative lighting. It also depends on the number of fixtures within the street lighting district, as well as characteristics of the roadways. And the rates are also adjusted as TECO completes their planned conversion to LED lighting, which has been going on for the last several years and is now nearly completed. In all, there are 45 different rate classifications to cover all the different costs that the county pays to TECO for the service. So what's included in the proposal for the upcoming tax year? Well, as the board is aware, the Florida Public Service Commission approved a rate increase for TECO that went into effect January 1st and resulted in a 9 to 12% increase across the various street lighting districts, across the various street lighting rates that are charged by TECO. And then a second fuel charge increase that went into effect in April. And so based on this, the county's rate consultant provided a rate report, which is included in your backup, and recommends that program revenues will need to increase by just over $1 million in order to meet the financial obligations of the program, to cover this year's TECO rate increase, as well as maintain program reserves, which are required by the ordinance, and help to cover the additional costs of rate increases. So the effect that this will have on property owners does vary by street lighting district for the reasons that I covered before. But across the board, the overall average increase is about 12%. The most common lighting classifications are seeing an increase of a little under $7 for their annual assessment, going from around $77 to $84 annually. Some are increasing quite a bit more than that for those various factors such as the lighting characteristics and the LED conversions. But the large majority, nearly 80% of the districts, are increasing by 10% or less. So again, the purpose of this public hearing is for the board to establish the annual rates for the various street lighting classifications and to adopt the non-ad valorem assessments for the 2023 tax year. The county mailed written notices on July 24th to all 127,000 property owners who received street lighting service and duly advertised the public hearing through legal notice in the Tampa Bay Times on July 23rd. Those notices state that property owners have the right to file written objections. To date, Public Works has received 11 written objections to the 2023 street lighting assessment increase. Once the new rates are adopted, they will go into effect October 1st. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer questions that you might have, and this is a public hearing.
All right, thanks, Josh. This is a public hearing. We've got 4 individuals that have signed up. Ida Swindaz, it looks like, followed by Tamara Jennings and Karen Kearns. Is Ida here? Okay, if not, Tamara Jennings was virtual, then followed by Karen Kearns and John Savaris. Is there Ms. Jennings on the line?
Yes.
Good morning.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Tamara. I'm a Hillsborough County resident for over 20 years. And I just want to know, why now would we increase the 3%, the percentage for our collection and disposal at the time that we're in a recession? And most people aren't going to be able to afford their mortgages now, and we are going to increase it this much money, especially for people on fixed income. So why now would they do this?
Do you have anything further to say, Ms. Jennings?
Hello?
This isn't a question and answer period. Do you have anything further to say?
Oh, well, I just want to say that I think that it's going to be a hardship for most of us to pay with all the increases in your taxes, in your food, in your insurance. Homeowners insurance has already doubled or tripled in most people's cases, making it unaffordable for us to pay our mortgages. So if we increase our taxes for this collection and disposal, then you're basically essentially going to make a lot of people homeless and be foreclosed on, because we will not be able to pay our mortgages at this increased rate of everything that's going up with inflation. And thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Jennings. Appreciate your comments. Karen Kearns, followed by John Savaris. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Karen Kearns. I live in 33619 with my elderly mom. And actually, I have pretty much the same thing to say as the speaker just did. Mostly my concerns are what's in place for people on fixed incomes to handle these expenses. And as a new homeowner in that part of the county, I wasn't really familiar with the background or what the previous arrangements were. Also, it implies that there'll be something in the future. It says it's a one-time, but it says annual assessment. So, and she was talking about the solid waste collection, which I'm also addressing, but I have the same concerns about the street lighting. So really, that's all I am concerned about at the moment. But I really appreciate being here. It's my first time at the county commissioner meeting, and I appreciated everything that everybody else had to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kearns. John, looks like Tafares. Good morning, sir.
Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I appreciate your contribution to the community. And my conversation is really simple. It'd be really a wonderful thing to get homeowners that don't understand the complexity of all these reports somehow bridge the gap where people can really get that what's required is some simplicity for the layperson. It may be a series of group meetings, neighborhood meetings. I don't know, but I've been in the real estate development business for many, many years, and I've seen the changes, and it's really very complicated for the homeowner. So my recommendation is let's keep it simple. Let's include the neighborhoods somehow in layperson's language. Thank you very much for your time. I'm honored to be part of this new conversation because a new conversation is required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And can you state your name for the record, please?
John Severus.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your comments. All right, that closes the public comment portion of this item. Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you. Mr. Bellotti, I have a couple questions for you. You've been helping me get my PhD in special lighting districts because we're only a pass-through, right? We don't really have much else to do with the special lighting districts. It's just a function of the state. And they develop a new neighborhood and their special lighting district gets assigned to the county, but we don't control their rates directly, right? That's assigned by...
That's correct. We do not control it. It's a voluntary program. The lighting districts establish what type of lighting and service they're going to receive from TICO.
Yeah, we're just a simple legislative pass-through. I did a lot of research into this. I wish that we weren't involved because we're not the ones doing it. But everyone comes here and sees us as the authority doing it when it's really not us. I would say, though, that the reason I got involved is because I explained to you I had a history 10 years ago when I was the vice president of HOA. We found out that our HOA fees were extraordinarily high when we were a small 30-home community with no public amenities, no gate. We found out that almost all of it was these excruciatingly high fees to TICO for a long-term lease of the nice, beautiful concrete poles that the developer had put in. And that's how these rates and fees are determined and why they're so long-term and why they're so high. So I would say to Mr. Severus, I hope that I said that right, that through my research, I've determined that while these long-term contracts that are passed on to these special lighting districts are high, there is a way for them to get out of it, right? They can remove themselves voluntarily from the program. I think you covered that in the meeting. The initial response can be kind of disturbing, which has been said through county staff to them, which is just us relaying from TICO, and then my old HOA got that exact quote from TICO, which was, sure, you can get out of it, but we're going to turn the power off to your community. We said it just recently, and then TICO said it to me just 10 years ago, so I have to imagine there's a spectrum of other HOAs and CDDs that have been told the same thing. I guess the point is while the lease through a certain period is there for them to recapture their capital costs, I would encourage them to listen to the fact that after that, it's profiteering off of the poles, off of the light poles. TICO recollects their upfront capital, and then they do make a profit off of the poles long term, and the leaders of those HOAs and CDDs, which are the authorities that have the power to remove themselves from these high fees, they should do that research and reach out to their representatives at TICO and find out where they're at in their contract, if they're comfortable, and if not, get out of it and just only pay an electric bill. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Myers.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cohen. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. Next item.
Thank you. The next item is item D2. This is also a public hearing. This is to adopt the solid waste rate resolution establishing the solid waste non-ad valorem disposal and collection assessment rates. And Damian Trammell, the Director of Solid Waste Services, is here for a presentation. This is going to be an abridged presentation of the much longer one that you heard on June 8th in the budget workshop.
Good morning, Damian.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Damian Trammell. I'm the Solid Waste Management Department Director. This is an annual public hearing to set the solid waste assessment and roll for FY24. I'll briefly review some of the highlights from our budget workshop that was held on June 8th. Commissioners, our goal in solid waste is to maintain predictable competitive rates that align with industry standards, that bring about the service that not only you expect, but our customers expect as well. Our landfill is a finite asset. Reducing the amount of waste we dispose of in our landfill is essential to ensure the sustainability of our system. We're going to do this by maximizing the productivity of our waste energy plant, investing in the right amount of capital to ensure it's operating efficiently, increasing our recycling effort, and decreasing our recycling contamination rate. Our solid waste disposal assessment covers a multitude of facilities and programs. To name a few, our recycling facility, our waste energy plant, our landfill, our 2 yard waste facilities, 3 household hazardous events, our 2 transfer stations, and a multitude of other facilities and programs. Commissioner, we provide services to over 300,000 customers throughout Hillsborough County. That number is growing daily. Our solid waste collection assessment covers 2 garbage pickups, 1 yard waste pickup, 1 recycling pickup weekly. This equates to about 1 million services a week provided by 3 franchise collectors: Republic Services of Florida, FCC Environmental Services, and Waste Management Tampa. We also have 5 community collection centers that's positioned throughout the county to make it convenient for our customers to dispose of waste at no additional charge to them. They can dispose of items that cannot be placed in their cart, like a couch or a chair, again, at no additional charge. We also have a dedicated customer service team to respond to any customer concerns or inquiries that our customers may have, and we also have a contracts management team as well. We handle over 1.1 million tons of solid waste annually. About 45% of the material is going to our waste energy plant, 39% is going to the landfill, and 6% is recycling, and 10% is yard waste. Commissioners, as you see here, the goal here is to reduce the amount of waste we are landfilling and increase recycling, which we believe is the #1 way to reduce the amount of waste we dispose of in the landfill. In 2013, the county entered into an agreement to collect residential solid waste for 7 years with 3 franchise collectors. In 2020, we negotiated a short-term extension, which we call it the bridge contract. And in 2021, the board signed 2 new agreements with 3 haulers. This was a competitively bidded service. And under this agreement, Commissioners, we experienced significant increases in costs to collect solid waste. From 2013, as you can see, Commissioner, to 2020, we kept rates relatively flat. And in 21 and in 22, there was an increase. And in 23, we kept rates flat again. However, the rate increases did not cover the total costs we incurred from our new collection agreement that we signed in 2021. At the June 8th budget hearing, we discussed several factors, what was driving the costs. We discussed several economic factors. However, the most significant, Commissioners, is the collection contract that we signed on 2021. The new contracts reflect the current market condition for labor, equipment, fuel, and other expenses, which is a higher cost than from our previous contracts. Of the $84.72 increase, Commissioners, 78% is related to the collection contract. That amounts to about $66. And the remaining are related to inflation, debt, and personnel, which amount to about $19. So where are we today, Commissioners? We are proposing an increase after considering all factors to reduce costs while maintaining the same level of service. We're proposing an $84.72 increase. Commissioner, as you can see, we do not have the lowest or the highest rates. However, it's important to mention that we are the 4th largest county in the state of Florida and one of the fastest growing counties in the country. What does this mean, Commissioners? That there's a tremendous amount of demand and pressure on the solid waste system, and that's growing daily. Also, Commissioners, it's important to point out that of these municipalities that you see on this chart, we were one of the first to rebid our contract under the existing inflation pressures that we have today. So what that means is we anticipate more than likely within the next couple of years, this chart will look much different. Commissioner, again, this is a public hearing to adopt the resolution rates for enroll for FY24. Written notices were mailed to over 300,000 homeowners. The public hearing was published in the Tampa Bay Times and the Florida Sentinel, providing instructions on how to submit written objections to the rate increase. To date, we received 163 written responses. This will conclude my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Damian. This is a public hearing. We've got 10 individuals that signed up to speak. We have Mark Witt, followed by Nancy Kaiser, and then Ram Ramados, it looks like. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Mark Whitty, Folio 1495. I've got, am I able to ask a question here? Will you answer a question or no?
Possibly, probably not.
Okay, probably not. All right, let me
during a board
continue.
discussion,
I
we'll do our
understand,
best
yeah, 3
to
minutes
we'll do our
about that.
best to answer it.
So my ad valorem tax increase, it was 5.6% in the last 5-6 years. You would salivate if you could get the same 67% increase in your valorem taxes as we were looking at for this increase in the disposal and collection. It appears the burden of excess service is carried by those who abide by the 1 recycle and 1 garbage unit and those who are using multiple containers. I drive north of Waters, west of Del Mabry to the county lines and see multiple units in single family and single folio residences, too frequently not to notice. 300, where's the individual? Was it, we have 300,000 people? Households. And 3 bidders. I have a relative in Largo, they pay $30 a month for garbage only. They don't have recycle because Pinellas eliminated that. $30 a month versus whatever we're looking at. So I'm asking you to audit and consider the following. 1 recyclable and 1 garbage unit for each folio number. If additional units are needed, then change them for another full ad valorem or non-ad valorem fee. If a business is at a folio number, cross-reference that business with their license number and see if they're operating a business out of their home, which would require either more waste or more pickup. Use a sticker system for the following. 1 a week pickup for all collectible and garbage for retirees, or for retirees, if they have less refuse, of course. Half-year fee for winter residences with documentation. People who come to Florida and for the 6-month and 1-day IRS evasion. I also have reinstate the senior citizen discount that was available to me in 2018. there was something about signed a form in 2018 and I got a reduced fee for disposal or pickup. I don't see that happening anymore. It was a fact because I saw it on the non-ad valorem ticket on the annual bill. What are we going to do here? My wife is a retired school teacher, and if you've ever been one of you know when school teachers can pinch 2 pennies together and get change. So her suggestion is...
Thank you, Mr. Woody. I'll ask staff to address your issues during our board discussion. Nancy Kaiser, followed by Ram Ramadas and Todd Waldhauser. Ms. Kaiser, are you present? Good morning.
Morning. I'm not used to speaking in front of people like this, so bear with me. I want to come in with a thank you first, Mr. Hagan, your office, and the other commissioners, because I began to look for reduction in my taxes, solid waste, and they were very kind in your office, sir, very helpful, just telling me where to go to talk to people about that. And then other services. I'm 75. I still work. I need to still work. I'm coming for seniors like me and others that may be less fortunate. When I can't work anymore, my situation will be not as good as it is now. I'm fortunate. Unlike some other people here, my parents gave me their home free and clear. I don't have to pay for it. But with all these other costs going up, and I appreciate what the man said about $30 a month in another county, my situation will continue to deteriorate. I have no children or family around me to help me, and I'm independent. I don't want a handout. I don't want to pour them out to anybody. But there's reality for seniors who've worked all their life and don't want to be a burden to anybody else. So I did find there is some kind of discount for seniors over 65. I meet that with solid waste. With the increase that's coming up on solid waste and so forth, and in the lighting, it won't count for much because it'll be high, so high. So I know there's only so much money. But somehow, for the senior who is approaching, I'm very healthy now, a time where we may be homeless after all our years of trying to contribute as registered nurse to the community, volunteer hospice. I don't know how you would do this, but can there be a help on more discounts for taxes? I've got everything you can offer now. The solid waste, the other cost. I don't know what else to ask for. I'm fine right now, but there's coming a time I will not be able to go out and work, and then I will be like many others. You can take my home away if I don't pay these costs. I'll be out on the street eventually, and I don't know what you can do. But I just want to ask you if there's any way that some of these costs can be reduced for this senior. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. We're going to have staff address these issues after public comment. Ram Ramadas and Todd Waldhauser are virtual, followed by Ida Swindez.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is Ram Ramadas, a resident of Tampa Palms in Hillsborough County. I'm an engineer and a distinguished scholar. I had the opportunity to view the financial reports on the county's website. The solid waste department has proposed an assessment of $284 for collection and $152.63 for disposal. This is a net total of $437.51, which is a proposed increase of 24% in fall year 2024. I heard the gentleman from Solid Waste Department talk about industry standards, talk about growth in population. These are not new. You talked about the collection facilities. Again, this is not new. You're making comparisons to other counties, but fail to recognize the unique benefits that accrue from the operations over here in Hillsborough County and not anywhere else in the state of Florida. In 2013, you talked about a multi-year contract. You need to look at the multi-year contracts. You clearly stated in your presentation to the from the Solid Department official, in 2021, the problems seem to be with the contract signed. 70% of the proposed increase is related to the collection contract. This clearly shows where the problem is. You need to renegotiate the contracts. There are 3 collection providers, waste collection providers: Waste Management, Republic Services, Waste Connections. Now, let me look at the tonnage of solid waste buried in the landfill in 2006. 506,000 tons. Tonnage of solid waste incinerated in 2006, 360,000 tons. Tonnage of yard and wood wastage incinerated in 2006 was 201,000 tons. Now, that's a net total of 1.1 million tons. Now, let's fast forward to 2022. Almost the same figures. Solid waste buried in the landfill, 451,000 tons. Solid waste incinerated, 513,000 tons. Yard and wood wastage collected, 113,000 tons. That's a net total of 1.1 million tons. Now, there's been no change in the volume that you're handling after 17 years. Have you looked at determining on a location-by-location basis the municipal services benefit that individual regions could be receiving? Now, these are the various things that you need to be looking at. Now, there's no story on the operation of the landfill, the resource recovery facility. There's no mention of disposal expenses, but no details on what those are. I combed through the financial reports. There's a lot of clarity and transparency in the reports prior to 2016. There's less transparency in the reports after. There's no mention of enterprise funds in the last 3 financial reports. Now, the assessments for solid waste have been steadily going up for the last 6 years. With the proposed increase for the next year, this will be the 7th year of rate increases. The solid waste enterprise
Thank you, sir.
fund,
Appreciate your comments.
You have built it.
Thank you, sir. The next speakers are Todd Waldhauser's virtual, followed by Ida Swindez in person, and then a Tanis Ketch virtual. Todd, are you on the line?
Commissioner Todd is not checked in.
Todd is not. Okay. Ida, are you here? I don't want to keep mispronouncing your name. No? Okay. Tanis Ketch and Tamara Jennings are both virtual.
Yes, this is in reference to Tanis Ketch. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say my heart goes out to Ms. Kaiser, and that's exactly why I'm here today, to reiterate what she said. I oppose any increase to solid waste collection and disposal. The residents cannot continue to pay these continuous rising costs of living, taxes, insurances, electric bills, not alone food and water bills, and if they have HOAs or CDDs, it's just getting to be billed so much that they can't afford to even live. And like Ms. Kaiser, how do we expect our elderly senior citizens that are on fixed income to survive? And she was correct. They could lose their homes if they don't pay these assessments. So they have to choose whether to eat food or pay these higher assessments because they can't afford this consistently increasing costs of everything. It's just gotten out of hand, especially for elderly and people on fixed income. Again, I want to reiterate that they could have a tax deed sale put against them if they don't pay these and lose their homes that they've been in for 30, 40, 50 years here in Hillsborough County. Any increases in anything should be seriously thought of before anything happens, because there's going to be homelessness, like Ms. Jennings says and Kern said. On top of that, you guys got stormwater management going on and charging people for impeding stormwater in agricultural properties, in properties over 5 acres. I understand housing communities should be probably assessed because they're all concrete block and driveways that's impeding water, but why agricultural properties that have been here forever. I agree with getting a senior citizen discount or a veterans discount. So I think the board should consider those items. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tamara Jennings, virtual, followed by Karen Kearns in person. Ms. Jennings, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. So this is Tamara Jennings again. I do want to add something to what I said earlier. I am a mortgage underwriter for 18 years, and I do both foreclosures and front-end underwriting. And I know how complex it is that any changes in people's budget of what I qualify them for that loan will make them unable to pay that mortgage. We have quite a few people that's already in foreclosure. I mean, I'm talking thousands. So with this increase, we're going to further exasperate all of our foreclosures. These people are going to be forced out of their homes earlier. And once again, this is happening when food has went up, electric has went up, water has went up. I don't understand why you would pick right now to make this increase unless your motive is to actually make our homeless population exposed, because that's what's going to happen. There's just no doubt about that. So I would seriously want them to reconsider making this change, especially right now. And yes, they should give a senior citizen discount, veterans, and also hardships for people who won't be able to pay their mortgage, so they'll still have a roof over their heads and not be forced out because they can't pay disposal and collection. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Jennings. The last three speakers, Karen Kearns, and followed by John Savaris, and then a Ms. Ledak.
I really just to reiterate what I said earlier, I have concerns for the elderly and those of us on fixed income with these additional expenses. I agree with everything that Tamara just said, and I thank you for your time.
And can you please state your name?
Karen Kearns, and I live in 33619. Hi, Pat.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Savaris?
Well, I get to speak to you guys twice. And like Karen said, it's all up to us as a community. And again, my request is that we start working with neighborhoods. You're the county. Get people out talking to neighborhoods. And yeah, you'll have to hire more people to do the talking. And yeah, it's a budget thing, but you want the homeowners to understand what's going on in layman's terms. And these are very complex issues. So again, my request is that we start talking to our neighborhoods. And how do you do that? Well, you got to get people out on the road, maybe not volunteers, maybe volunteers. And I thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate the wonderful job that everyone is doing, and you got your heart in the right place. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir. And please state your name again.
John Savaris.
Thank you again. Last speaker, last name Ledak. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, I heard everyone talking concerning about the solid waste collection and disposal. And I'm 70 now. I retire, and like other gentlemen and lady, we retire to Alberta County Limited. So I came from California. I run away from California because it's expensive. There and everything going up there. And we try to find a place we can retire with our low income. And I agree that if some people here only talk that we have to look at the county to consider at the discount or somehow to help us to pay for the fee, the disposal, collection and disposal fee. And so we can be able to survive with our income. Thank you very much. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming down. That closes the public comment portion. Before we go into board discussion, would staff address some of the issues that came up? I don't know, Bonnie, who did?
Well, I can do that, and we can also have staff address it. We have several seniors who spoke about some hardship, and I did want people to know that we do have several hardship programs, and so staff is here to address that today. But also, if they contact us, today we're speaking about solid waste, but we have various other hardship programs, whether it's stormwater or some other assessment, and so we would invite them to contact us, and we will get the appropriate resources to them.
Okay. Commissioner Owen, I believe you have your hand up, although I can't
yes.
see it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Trammell, could I have you for one quick second?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
So I mean, we've had in-depth discussions about this. I mean, we're at a crossroads right now with solid waste. We really don't have a lot of options here. And I know that you looked at, do we get rid of recycling? Do we go to 1 day a week rather than 2 day a week? Those just aren't very feasible, correct? I mean, for the recycling issue, we would have a landfill nightmare, not to mention the environmental impacts. And then 1 day a week, I don't think that would cut it. I know you had done your own research on that. Could you just elaborate for the public on those two things?
Sure. So, Commissioner, thank you. That's all good questions. Both options have been looked at. The first one I'll talk about is the reducing recycling. All right. So eliminating recycling would reduce the annual assessment by $3.72. So what that means is, Commissioners, that the annual proposed increase is $84.72. If we were to reduce recycling, it would be reduced to about $81. We also looked at the once a week service as well, and reducing the number of pickups does not reduce the amount of waste we generate, the customers generate. Definite resources remain the same number of vehicles, same number of trucks that's needed to pick up the waste today will need tomorrow with a once a week service. There will be some level of efficiencies that we may recognize, but it's unlikely that they will be substantial enough for our haulers to renegotiate their existing agreement. Additionally, we did do a cost benefit from once a week to twice a week services, and it was about a 12%, 13% difference cost savings. And we also in 2019 performed a survey of our citizens in terms of asking what did they want to see. Did they prefer once a week versus twice a week? And it was about 65% and probably greater preferred twice a week versus once a week.
Yeah, that's good. And you know, we're really kind of a victim to the fact that our contracts have expired. If you look at Pinellas and our neighboring counties, the only reason that their rates may not be shooting up, they're going to when they have to enter into new agreements, is just because we're at a point where we had to obtain new vendors at new prices, basically. Is that safe to say?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
Yeah. So okay, well, that's all I really had. I wanted to make sure that was very clear, that was clarified to the public that we have tried every which way to try to find some type of avenue to save costs, and this is just where we're at now. We can't face a default, and that's what we're looking at. So I will be supporting it. And thank you, Mr. Trammell.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Wostel?
Mr. Trammell, we do charge someone if they maintain multiple trash cans, though, correct? Don't we assess them an additional fee if they request a second trash can for waste collection?
Commissioner Wostel, no, we do not. We do charge for the delivery and cost of the roll car, but not for additional services. No, we do not.
Right.
Have we ever reviewed if someone's maintaining multiple trash cans, that they're also incurring a heavier impact onto our waste collection system?
I believe it was evaluated years prior. I don't think not as of late. It has not been. But yes, I do believe we did look at it in years past.
And it's the first we've talked about a lot, but this isn't something that had come up in consideration. So what was the determination? I mean, and logically, if someone has 3 trash cans outside, then they're occurring more of an impact onto our waste collection system than the person that has 1 that might not even be filling it up.
Right. No, I think, Commissioner, those are all really good questions. I don't necessarily have the research in front of me, but I can tell you just from experience, and I was around back then, Commissioner.
I know you're brand new for everybody that's watching into the role.
Absolutely, yes, sir. But I can tell you, Commissioners, that to determine who has a second garbage container and who does not, we don't necessarily have that data in place. It would take a massive evaluation to really get down to who has those second garbage cans and who does not. We don't necessarily have that data in front of us today.
Okay, well, that sounds like something that, while it might be something that the waste collection folks need to look into, that it might be beneficial to the person that's being redistributed other people's burdens. I know we don't have the information now. I did want to point out to the public that during the last public hearing, you had announced some staggering reductions in actually the work that solid waste had done from, and I think what's important is that this contract is already in place.
That's correct.
We got elected on November the 8th, but when was this contract signed?
This contract was signed in 2021, sir.
Right, so that's a lot of why also that the new commissioners, even though it was announced at the last public hearing, the rates have already been increased. It's just that it was subsidized with property taxes. So this contract is a done deal. We're not here negotiating the contract. It was done before we got here. It's just that we're now at the precipice of needing to enact them. But you guys did work. I mean, they had negotiated things like alternative fuel initiatives for extremely expensive electric waste collection vehicles. Is that what that line item says in the summary of changes, where it says alternative fuel initiative? At first they were required, but now franchise collectors were encouraged but not required. Alternative fuel vehicles reduce environmental and noise impacts and increase sustainability during a major storm. However, they are more expensive to purchase and require specialized infrastructure.
Yes.
So that was something that you guys saw that was going to make it way more expensive than it even currently is now, but you went back to them.
That's correct.
I guess the point is that you have done extensive work to cut fat out of this contract to impose the least impact that we possibly can.
Commissioner Walser, that's absolutely correct. We initially put out a bid for services in 2019, and we rejected the bids because they came in extremely high. And so we went back to the drawing board to look at some of the things we were requesting within that contract to really, kind of narrow it down to just the bare necessities in terms of what we need to provide the service. And yes, so that's what we did. That's true.
I will say things that you don't know. Just a little over 5 weeks ago now, I have, they've merged to these metal arm bars and the automated bars where the driver picks it up with a crane type system, with the forklift type system. Yes. And then they slam those carts down, they shatter those wheels. I requested cart replacements 5 weeks ago just to kind of see, especially since we're going to raise rates, where they're even at. Both carts, no wheel, huge cracks up the side. My wife is tiny, so if she's the one wheeling it out, she can barely get it out there through the grass. I mean, if we're gonna pay these folks even more money, you would hope that, especially if it is a senior citizen, that they could get 2 wheels and replaced in a timely manner, especially at the rates that they're charging us. It's a problem. I hate being in this position, especially when I wasn't here for the original contract negotiation. I hate that you're a brand new director that's in charge of bringing this forward to us. But I think that the end result is that there's nothing more to be done, because if we don't increase it, that's not been something that's been said. What happens if we don't increase the rates?
Sure. Again, commissions, we evaluated all options, and at this point, we believe that it's unavoidable to raise rates for FY24. We stand at risk of being in technical default over bond requirements if we do not raise rates, which will have a tremendous impact, not just on solid waste, but on the utility as a whole, which means Water Resource Department and the solid waste.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your diligence on this.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you. Just a couple of points for Ms. Wise. If you could give a phone number of how people actually contact us to get help in terms of, if they are seniors or in a difficult situation with this or other programs, or.
Yes. Commissioner Kemp, thank you. In terms of we have two programs that we offer. I wanted to kind of mention that Ms. Wise kind of mentioned that as well. You can give us a call at 813-272-5680, and we'll be more than happy to walk any citizen through the process. But we do have two programs. One is the senior citizen discount. We offer a 28.75% discount on the disposal assessment. In addition to that, we have our hardship affordability credit, which amounts to about $60 as well. There's some eligibility requirements that are online that we encourage everyone to go and seek out. But if they just give us a call, we'll walk them through how to get that information and how to apply as well. Again, that's 813-272-5680.
Thank you. I think it's important
Yes.
that we put that out there for people to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Second, I just say, for one thing, actually the former contract was here before I came, but it did stay flat for 7 years. We didn't increase the rates of collection, and it got to be a real problem because over that time, there were really big changes in the whole system. For instance, drivers were much more difficult to get because now we have all kinds of delivery services, and we have Amazon and FedEx and everyone else that was competing for the people who used to drive our solid waste trucks. From everything I understand from the three, at that time, the three private operators that we
Yes.
hire, all our work is contracted out. This was also bid out with RFPs to, get competitive rates for a number of years. I just think it's important for people to understand that. I think one huge benefit that we had from this that I was really surprised that we didn't have before and that we have now is that we have centralized the phone calls to come into the county when people have issues. And we had lots of issues for a long time, complaints about service for quite some time, and very extreme complaints. And I'm very pleased that the county came forward with this new contract to have the county be the point of information of complaints, of concerns, and have a phone number for that. Is that the same number, by the way?
It is, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that if they had service issues,
Right.
they could contact the county instead of the contractor, which I understand many times wasn't as responsive as people would have appreciated, and sometimes non-responsive, even though, they pick up the phone, but the
Right.
service would not materialize. So I am very happy about that change in our contracts. That being said, I'd like to, thank the people that come in and tell us about these issues. We know that everybody's under some terrible stress, and we've heard it today with affordable housing, with solid waste, with the lighting districts, with the costs of their electric bills, with insurance going up incredibly. People are, I know, in difficult times. I thought, Commissioner Wustall, your question was very good, and actually when I hit my button, it was the exact thing that I was going to ask about the container pickup. I can imagine it's complex and
Yes.
creates some difficulties, but I'd like to see if we could pursue looking at that, possibly how to implement it as well. I think if people are just asked, do you want service 2 times a week? Do you want service 3 times a week? Do you want service 4 times a week? They'll say yes.
Right.
But maybe if they say, maybe, and I don't know how the surveys were done or the questions were done, or maybe there could be pilot communities where they would say, we'll take this discount for 1 day a week service, and see if we could do that for communities in some way, or do pilot testing.
Yes.
And see if we could discount that way, because that really does make sense to me in a lot of ways as a possibility. And it might be, I can imagine people with 2 or 3 containers out there might be more reluctant to do that, and might be willing to pay more as well for their services. I know this all complicates the way this is done, but I think that those are 2 good. I'd like to see if we could maybe initiate that for the future, at least looking at that more closely and studying it, despite the issues it might cause. But with that, I'll just say there's no magic solutions. This is extraordinarily complex. I know I spent quite a bit of time trying to understand how it's done, how, what the costs are, what the needs are. As everyone here knows, as I said, we stayed flat for 7 years under a contract, but like every place else, we have rising prices, but more importantly, these companies, when they did their bids, were doing them with, higher costs in mind. As I said, they had a real problem prior to this because we were in the last years of that former contract, and there was difficulty with paying drivers. I'll be the one to make the motion to, with this contract, to move approval.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Myers. If there are no other comments, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Bonnie, we got 10:45, time certain.
So sorry. Yes, sir. This is a special appearance by Tom Morrison, who's General Counsel to the Hillsborough County Industrial Development Authority. And if Mr. Morrison could maybe cover his special appearance E1 and B2. This is for a bond issue for Moffitt Cancer Center.
Good morning, Mr. Morrison.
Good morning, Commissioner Hagan, Chairman Hagan, and Commissioners, and Ms. Wise. How are you? As you know, I'm counsel for the Industrial Development Authority. I'm here with something a little bit different for you. In this case, the IDA is not the bond issuer, Pasco County is. Pasco County is partnering with Moffitt Cancer Center and Hospital in a $200 million bond issue for what they call ambulatory centers, or MACs, Moffitt Ambulatory Centers, one of which will be in Pasco County, one of which will be down in Ruskin and Hillsborough County. These will include radiation oncology treatment spaces, infusion therapy spaces, imaging, physician clinic space, exam rooms, and other facilities. You might ask why Pasco is issuing the bonds and not Hillsborough. Moffitt has a 775-acre campus in Pasco under development, and this MAC financing is part of a bigger development that they're undergoing there. Where the 2023B bonds, there's also a 2023A bond issue. Economies of scale dictate that the bigger projects get the financing, and we're asked to do this on the basis of an interlocal agreement. Under your rules, we have to treat an application for an interlocal agreement such as this just as we would if we were the bond issuer. So we required them to pay an application fee, file an application as if we were being the issuer with all the details. It was vetted by our common professional teams of financial advisors, bond lawyers, and me, as well as your staff. They've made all the changes in the documents that we've asked for. There's absolutely, I'm happy to tell you after the last few items, no tax dollars, no government fees at all. involved in this. This is strictly being paid by Moffett through revenue streams and other tax base that they get from the state. So no local impact whatsoever. There's zero liability for Hillsborough County. And if anything ever popped up, they've agreed to indemnify the county, the IDA, and all of us involved. So after a public hearing, which was advertised in the newspaper at the IDA approved the interlocal agreement subject to your approval as elected officials under TEFRA, which is a federal law and the income tax code, and they recommend it to you for your approval. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. There are representatives of Moffett here who can answer questions if you have them.
All right, thank you, Ms. Morrison. Any questions or comments, or can we have a motion to approve?
Move approval. Second.
Got a motion to approve by, was that Commissioner Wolstel? Or Commissioner Cohen, and then second by Commissioner Wolstel. If there are no comments, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Bottom of our 11 o'clock.
I'm sorry, motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. We can now move to our 11 o'clock item. This is item G2. This is to receive a report on the summary findings from the unmarked burial grounds. And Brandon Wagner will present this item and turn it over to Dr. Aaron Kimmerly from University of South Florida.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is agenda item G2. This is a summary finding of a report by University of South Florida on unmarked burials. This project had been initiated by the board a couple of years ago. The county contracted with USF to conduct this work, and Dr. Aaron Kimmerly is here to provide those findings to you and answer any questions that you might have.
Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to begin by thanking all of you for this opportunity and for your leadership on the issue of unmarked burial grounds. This is a problem and current topic in many cities around Florida and the eastern United States, but this board has really stood out in having taken a proactive position, and I believe that what we've been able to accomplish over the last few years will serve as a model for others facing a lot of the same issues and questions. And especially I'd like to thank Commissioner Hagan for his leadership on requesting this effort in the beginning, and then all of the staff who've helped so much to get through all the records and maps and do everything that we needed to. Very grateful to all of them. The objective from the start was to identify unmarked cemeteries or burial grounds on county land. And to determine this, we provided a multi-phase approach to develop a strategy to research, document, and assess any sites, including site visits and field verification, photography, GPS mapping. And so I'd just like to briefly go over the 4 sites that we were able to find that are related to county property and share with you our findings. The first site is the Lewis Family Cemetery, located within the county ELAP area in Lithia. Historic records describe this site as a family burial plot. The WPA records indicate veteran burials were there. Fieldwork consisted of a site survey and GIS analysis with georeferenced location data from that 1941 description. Through the effort, we located this general vicinity of this site. It's currently marked, you can see in the picture, by thick woods and palmettos. It's barely accessible. No grave markers were located on the ground surface, and due to that difficult terrain, no further field work was initiated. The second site is the John Carney Memorial Site, located in Valrico. We previously identified a 1-acre cemetery approximately 2 blocks from the current historical marker. This comes from the 1916 Hillsborough County Land Atlas. The county obtained this property when the burial ground was abandoned and omitted through land sales. The general survey of the area, again, the same field methods and historic mapping, we find that the question was whether this was 1 or 2 distinct burial areas, and we believe this problem is what we call a border issue. So they probably represent the same site, it's just the current marker may not be in the exact location as it was marked historically. The third site involves the well-known Marty Cullen Cemetery and the County Road Columbus Drive that transects through this burial ground. There was question about the removal and relocation of burials in the road's right-of-way and when Columbus was built. And we believe that the burials intruded upon during that construction and later expansion of the road were moved based on court documents and field work. Through the initial phase of the project, we found references to burials in what was called West Tampa Cemetery. Those date to the 1890s, but the location for that burial ground was unknown. The current Marty Cullen Cemetery is fenced and marked to the south of Columbus Drive. Through further investigation, we believe the West Tampa Cemetery, located north of the current Marty Cemetery and the road, which today contains a parking lot and shopping plaza. So basically, these cemeteries represent a cluster of burial grounds used in that general vicinity from the late 1890s, possibly earlier, and records were found for over 784 burials on the site. Except for those in the right-of-way, none of them appear to have ever been moved. There were no headstones located except for 3 for any of the historic burials. And again, those date 1895 to 1931. All others appear to have been built over. So everything there currently dates after 1932. The West Tampa Cemetery grew out of several family burial plots and then eventually into the city of West Tampa City Cemetery. And then it was ultimately annexed into Tampa. Those original burial lots include Avent Burial Ground, LaFay Burial Plot, and the Gira Parcel cemeteries. Burial records show that at least several hundred were African American, Afro-Cuban, or others historically classified in what was called the colored section during the era of segregation. Burials north of the road were interred after the 1930s by the undertaker at the time who leased the property from the city, named Boza, may have moved in part burials, but only those which he interred there after 1932. And this image is a contemporary photo overlaid with a historic plot map, and the different colors represent portions of those cemetery and as it expanded. The red area is what Boza added to the original 4-acre plot, extending what's today called the Marty Cullen Cemetery. That was after 1933. And this is a current photo from the Marty Cemetery looking north over Columbus Drive into the shopping plaza, and you see on both sides the land has been built up, so likely over the top of the burials that are there. The final site is that near Myrtle Hill Cemetery, also known as Myrtle Hill Memorial Park, created in 1917 on 105 acres, located on East Lake Avenue near 50th Avenue and MLK. At the time, it was Tampa's first perpetually owned cemetery. Approximately 55 acres were parceled and sold to different entities by the Myrtle Hill Park Company in the 1980s. Numerous land records for these parcels were located, though not all could be located. And several deeds state that the cemetery extended and was on the properties that were sold. The first parcel is a county road easement off of 50th, about 0.38 of an acre. And that section had always, we believe, was always part of the road easement. So we don't think that there were any burials ever on that parcel. But that's what alerted us to this cemetery and the surrounding properties that were sold. The other sold parcels that may be impacted, though today are on private or other authority properties. So Spanish Park East is a parcel that appears divided between the Hillsborough County School Board and one of the mutual aid societies. Deed records indicate a cemetery had been present, and then historic maps also show that. You can see here. The Family Dollar Store on 50th and MLK also sold in '86, and the land records indicate that there, at least at one time, had been a cemetery on site. The final aspect is across the street from this, Persimmon Golf Course, which later was turned into the Pepin Beverage Distributor and Hospitality Center. That sold in '86, and then there were several subsequent sales as well. Several residents in the community told us that when it was a golf course, burials did extend across the road, and they further said that the headstones were evident on that side of the road. we were not able to find all of the land deeds for that property. In summary, the outcomes of this last phase of research includes possible new border for the John Carney Memorial Site, the identification and general boundary location for the Lewis Family Cemetery, clarification on the removal of burials from the Marty Colin Cemetery for road right-of-way only, and clarification on the burials in the county road easement associated with the property sold for Myrtle Hill. More information and research on findings conducted for this investigation and our other work related to a broader cemetery initiative will be presented in a public exhibit, which is free and open to the public to help share this information. It will be in the Waterman Gallery at the Social Science Building at USF, opening September 15th and running through January. So thank you again for your time and attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation and all of the hard work that you put into this. It's very, very much appreciated. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Kimberly for her outstanding research on this particular project. To you, Commissioner Hagan, thank you for bringing this to our attention in 2021. And to all staff who was involved with this report, I say thank you. Then I'd like to make a motion. I move to receive the report from Dr. Erin Kimberly of USF.
All right, we got a motion by Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Kemp. Any other comments? If not, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you again.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. I also move to direct staff to create and maintain appropriate records, including the state registry pertaining to the Lewis Cemetery and John Carney Memorial Site, and to create a suitable memorial marker in the area of the Marty Colin Cemetery and Columbus Drive, recognizing those individuals who were laid to rest in the past but cannot be accounted for today, to be unveiling at a county community ceremony for a future date to be determined.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. I think that's an excellent idea, Commissioner Myers. If there are no comments to the motion, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, next item.
Thank you. We have one regular agenda item. This is item B1. This is relating to a Brownfield area, and Yacha Petrovic from Economic Development is here to present this item.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yaksha Petrovic, Hillsborough County Economic Development Department. On May 12, 2023, 4810 Property LLC submitted an application requesting that Hillsborough County designate the parcel at 4810 South 50th Street in Tampa, Florida, 33619 as a brownfield area. The property consists of approximately 3.11 acres and is shown on the projected map. Florida statutes require public announcement of the community meeting and 2 public hearings to designate the brownfield. The proposed community meeting is set to be on August 28, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Emmanuel P. Johnson Recreational Center, located at 5855 South 78th Street, Tampa, Florida, 33619. The 2 proposed public hearings are set to be on September 20th, 23 and October 4, 2023 at 10 a.m. during Board of County Commissioners regular meeting in Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners boardroom on the 2nd floor of Frederick B. Carroll County Center, 601 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602. Staff recommendation is to authorize setting the community meeting and 2 public hearings as proposed. Staff is also requesting a waiver of the statutory requirement that one of the public hearings be held after 5 p.m. The advertised community meeting will be held at 6 p.m. and BOCC will be provided with full transcripts of the public comment at the community meeting. Staff will also wanted to let you know about the other couple of things that have come up. We will be placing signs and ads in the community. So the 3 signs that will be placed are at the following locations on the map. Those are at the project site facing north on US 41, at the southwest intersection of Pendola Point Road and US Highway 41 facing southbound traffic, at northeast intersection of Madison Avenue and US 40, Highway 41, facing westbound traffic on Madison Avenue. Also, ads will be placed in the following publications: Florida Sentinel Bulletin on Friday, August 18th, La Gazette on Friday, August 18th, and Tampa Bay Times on August 20th and Sunday, September 24th. I, along with applicant and Vivian Arenas Battles with County Attorney's Office, are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you. Just one correction for the Florida Sentinel Bulletin. It will come out on Wednesday, the 23rd. They don't publish anymore on Fridays.
Oh.
Yes. So I just want to get the correction so that we can get it in a timely manner.
Okay.
But thank you so much, and I thank you for briefing me the other day on the report. But I'm going to go ahead and move for approval.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Cohen. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, sir. Bonnie?
Thank you. And your next item is item G1. This is to receive a report from the County Attorney's Office regarding the implementation of single-member districts. And Mary Helen Ferris is here from the County Attorney's Office to present this item.
Morning, Mary Helen.
Good morning. Mary Helen Ferris with the County Attorney's Office. The report that's in your backup was requested at the July 12th board meeting. There were several issues that they asked us to look into. We have a response to each of the ones that were raised. Basically, it was the possibility of scheduling a referendum to increase the county commission membership during the presidential preference primary. There's some timing concerns with that. In the alternative, we looked into the possibility of holding a special election. Those findings are also in the report, along with the costs involved. And I'm here, happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for all your hard work and your report. You know, I really stated my position, I think, as crystal clear as I can on why I think 9 single-member districts is appropriate. And I'll just briefly state some of those reasons again, but I really want to hear from my colleagues today. But, you know, representing 1.5 million people, you are not government closest to the people. You can't convince me of that. When you're representing almost double the amount that Congress does, you're not government that's closest to the people. The majority of the calls and what I get are, you know, I need my road fixed, my potholes, my trash isn't getting picked up. Those kind of home rule things are really important, I think, for a county commissioner. I've never seen in my lifetime such a divide between Tampa and maybe the unincorporated part of the county. What I mean by that is you're either kind of Tampa-centric, is what I see, or you're not. And that's why I think that single-member districts will more effectively represent each district and each individual. I do understand the argument, hey, we get to vote for a few different county commissioners. But for me, from what I see and from what I see with this board and the prior boards, you're not really going to be a good representative of Tampa and Plant City, for example. So that is the reason why I feel that single-member districts are appropriate right now. And remember this, we're not making the decision. I don't know why we're so terrified to let the voters decide. That's one of the things that really hits home when I really start thinking about it is, okay, we can talk about, let's not have a special election. Maybe let's look at the primary and do it. And maybe it does. Maybe we get redistricting and that kind of stuff done this year if it passes. And it gets implemented for the next election. Those are conversations I'm willing to have and I want to listen to. And to some of the comments as far as me personally as to my district, just for the public to know, out of all 7 county commissioners, technically my district is the safest seat in the whole county. What I would be doing or what I would be agreeing to push this forward is the likelihood that my seat is less safe. Because I think that this is the right thing for the county. I think that we are, as we increase to 1.6 million people, we are getting to a point where representing the whole county is just hard to really fathom. I don't think that a county-wide person can actually do it right now. So I think that's very important for some of the folks that had some comments on me personally, that, you know, I'm coming from the safest district in the county, technically, as an election goes. But I understand that doing the right thing here is to allow the voters to make a decision on whether or not we should be single-member districts. At the end of the day, we're not the ones that decide. So that's my position. I've already stated my position, I think, very clearly. I'm the one who brought this. But what I'd like to do today is I'd like to just listen to my colleagues and hope we can keep the discussion professional because I'm very interested to see where each commissioner is at on that. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Owen. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, so, you know, this is something that, like you said, the people can decide, but we can allow the Charter Review Board to go over that. And then also, there's no rush. The people can decide and vote on this, but there's no rush because with all this cost that's involved, we don't need to have a special election for this. And personally, I like having countywide. People can vote for more than one commissioner. I think that's awesome. That's my view on that. And that's why I really don't believe we need to rush into it. It's awesome if the people want to vote for this because it is the people's choice. But I don't believe we need to have a special election and cost all the taxpayer money for that. And again, personally, I like countywide. But again, not wasting any taxpayer money, and we can still allow the people to decide what they want.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cepeda. You brought up something. There's been a lot of misinformation that was said today. Absolutely no one that I've heard said that we should do a special election and spend the money that's in this report. It was noted as an option, but the current offering was that it was just done at one of the regularly scheduled meetings. So no one has advocated to spend these millions of dollars that are listed in this report. I've heard it said a lot of times. I was surprised at some of the comments that were frankly said at the last meeting. The reason that I have and always will have a disdain for politicians is how clever misinformation can be used to trick people, to trick you. We even heard a lot today from the Women League of Voters, which the first time I ever heard them was actually from Chair Hagan. It was the only time I'd ever heard him quip a joke, actually, during a meeting. Everyone deserves to know that while it was mentioned that the maps were just drawn 2 years ago, well, that was through an extreme gerrymandering process. Coincidentally, the same person that would have benefited from the gerrymandering that the League of Women Voters had supported the map that's in place right now is now an active member that opposed Commissioner Hagan. That same person is now an active member of the League of Women Voters. So you can't get any more partisan than the level of misinformation that's being presented to the taxpayers of Hillsborough County on this particular issue. No one's trying to rush this process through. Frankly, this process is probably 10 years in lag of when it should have been addressed. You've seen the population breakout, the land mass breakout. I mean, the District 4 seat right now is almost half of the entire county. There is not an even representation to the taxpayers of Hillsborough County because the city of Tampa is represented by 6 of the 7 commissioners. The city of Plant City is only represented by 4. But we don't want to, they like to cleverly use the word equity and equitability, but they don't want to address those nuances when they come up. They don't want to address the nuances of that certain seats on this board only exist how they are because of the gerrymandering that happened 2 years ago. Those seats would have absolutely gone a different way if that gerrymandering didn't occur. So gerrymandering has existed, it looks like, throughout the history of writing maps. I remember the president of the Hillsborough NAACP coming and speaking publicly and outright putting their own party basically on notice for gerrymandering the process and pointing out to them that elections had consequences. No one is asking for a special election. I disagree with some of the SOE's feedback on the timelines. I think that that was also a partisan outcome of this, which is unfortunate, but the constitutionals are a partisan seat. I don't remember anybody suggesting that we spend millions of dollars on a special election. No one that I've heard supports that. We want it done at a regularly scheduled meeting that the SOE is already going to be financially setting up shop. This whole all mail-in ballot, I've never even heard of that. No one has recommended that we do an all mail-in ballot special election to address the charter amendment. There is the option of the Charter Review Board, but that would also be another delay. I think that what's important is that Representative Laurel Lee got 145,000 votes. Representative Kathy Castor got 149,000 votes to be your federal congressional members. Commissioner Cepeda and I got almost 250,000 votes to be your lowest level local elected official that you deserve to have direct access to, and you simply don't because of explosive population growth over a 43-year-old unreviewed charter, unchanged charter. This is not us saying that we're going to do it. It's that you deserve the right to decide whether or not you have the ability to functionally door knock your locally elected official out of office if you don't have them. That's the easiest way to get one of them, because to get the level of petitions that are required to do, I forget what it's called, but to basically recall a local elected official, the amount of signatures that you'd have to get for a county-wide official is extreme, and you have to get them within 30 days. I mean, it's outrageous, the amount of money that would go into it as well to count those ballots. If you get lower local elected officials, they will be more accountable to you because you will have more access to them. And I think that that's the important takeaway, that everybody needs to absolve them of all of the misinformation that's come from my favorite quote in the newspaper that came from the chair of the Democratic Executive Committee was that they don't want any money spent on this because they want more money for affordable housing. And I thought, how true is that? It was one of the most honest statements that could ever come, is that they will do anything to maximize the amount of your property taxes to spend on their initiatives, but they will scream that this is a violation of democracy the moment we are just trying to give you more access to your local elected official. So I'm very happy that this item was brought forward, and I look forward to allowing voters to have a voice and voice their opinion on whether or not they would like more access to their local elected official. Thank you, Commissioner Owen.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to reflect back 40 years ago when Mr. Willie Warren and the late Willie Warren and now the late Carl Warren, who fought so hard for single-member district and to make sure we had black representation at the county commission, city hall, and over at the school board. And I must inform us, Carl Warren was just funeralized this past Saturday. And I said, wow, what a time that we are talking about the single-member district, and he's been laid to rest. But for me, with this single-member district right now, and every time I come in this chamber, I listen to all of our constituents who come before us. And what are they talking about? They're talking about our transportation needs, our infrastructure, and our public safety. Okay, that's what they're talking about to us as a board. And we have the opportunity, and we've heard them over and over and over. We heard them again this morning, bringing up the same thing. For me right now, the single-member district is not an urgent need. It's not important right now. But what's important to me right now is what I've asked our county administrator to bring back. Let's find a source of revenue for our transportation, our infrastructure, and our public safety. That is where we should be right now. We are right now also in the midst of our budget, getting our budget approved. but yet we're rushing to judgment. I won't say rushing to judgment, but maybe so. Talking about single member district, okay? I'm not there yet. Maybe I can look and revisit this sometime the beginning of next year, but right now, our county has more important, urgent needs that we need to address as a county. And I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Kemp?
Thank you. I appreciate the public getting engaged and thinking about our form of government. There was quite a bit of engagement when we had our Charter Review Board in the past. And as Commissioner Cepeda pointed out, that will come again in '25. And that is, and I won't be here for that. I'm probably the least interested in terms of my personal interest, because I won't even be here when this comes forward. So I can speak without, my personal interest in this, but I think it is a form of government that really has been thoughtfully reviewed over and over again. And one of the people that was involved in doing that was Jan Platt. And she was here when 3 county commissioners out of 5 were taken out in handcuffs, and they had to set up a new commission. And, this is I think it is a really special form of accountability for government, quite frankly, when you have 4 out of 7, 3 countywide commissioners and a district commissioner. I think it's a really good balance. You have 57% accountability. I'll just say that, for instance, Lee County, just south of here, which has 800,000 people, and it's the exact same size, 1,200 square miles. It has 5 at-large, just that, 100% accountability for every citizen in that county. And the counties also that are equal to our size, which are both Palm Beach County and Orange County, have 1.5 million. Along with us, we have 1.5 million. They have 7 one has 7 commissioners, and one has 6. And a countywide county mayor. That's something that's not a strong county mayor. That's something also that, isn't being thought about in any of this. But I think we have a really good form of government that makes it very accountable and provides a good mix for the balance in how we do things. I am very supportive, and I feel like I've learned over time how it works. And I think this is it really enfranchises the most people here, and it provides most accountability for those represented at the dais. Because, I know when you have, and by the way, a congressional district, for the record, is about 770,000 people. So you have about, less than 2 in Hillsborough County if they were just here. And the state Senate in Florida is 540,000 people. So you don't even have 3 if you just look at those districts here. But what happens when you call, if you have recently, your state Senate, your state House, anybody else, they represent your single member district. And I've heard it over and over again. Are you from this district? What is your address? If you want to contact members that aren't your member, they don't want to hear from you, and they are not accountable to you, and they're not responsive to you. And that's and right here, if somebody calls one of the district commissioners and says, hey, can I, have this, and it's in somebody else's district, they typically, it's not, they have their hands full with their districts, but it's typically not handed off in that way. But I think it's just very important, this form of government that we have, and we shouldn't be so cavalier about tossing it out without a lot of consideration. And I agree, Commissioner Myers, we have such pressing things. We heard it this morning. It's painful to hear, and that we have to think about as we move forward. So I'm supporting the form of government we have now, but at very least, we should have really careful consideration if we are to reconsider. And I think it could be best served by the Charter Review Board, which is in our charter, for every 5 years.
All right, Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you. And I'll be brief because I think everyone has said most of what needs to be said about this topic. My pushback to this idea at our last meeting was more about the timing and the rushing of it than anything else. And the idea of doing it on a ballot that would not have a representative sample of voters and that would force us to make big decisions very, very quickly without a lot of consideration. I agree with Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. I agree with much of what Commissioner Myers and Kemp just said, that there is a role for countywide commissioners. There is also reasonable people can disagree and can think that perhaps we should have single member districts. The thing is that it should be considered, and it should be considered thoughtfully. And having the time to do that is, I think, the most important thing. I would bring up again the idea that you can address some of the problems of the size of the county simply by rethinking under the current structure a board that maybe were made up of 9 members with 4 that were countywide and 5 districts, or even something like 6 and 3, which upholds the spirit of the charter. The citizens would be able to elect in that scenario 4 out of 9 members, not a majority, but a large number. And yet you would still have countywide seats that would give some breadth over decisions. And you'd also maintain the spirit of what we have currently. Again, these are things that deserve careful consideration. They deserve time. And in the spirit of what Commissioner Myers said about what our priorities are, perhaps when we've worked through some of the things that really are pressing right now, we can come back to this and in a methodical and thoughtful way, decide whether or not we want to make changes in what I agree has been a system that has served us well.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Let's make a couple of quick comments and then we'll move on. First of all, I want to say well said, Commissioner Wostel. I think you were spot on. Couldn't have said it any better. I want to say for the record, I have not taken a position on this issue. I understand the positions both for and against single-member districts. However, I feel at a minimum, single-member districts, both 7 and 9, deserve further consideration and review. I do understand the perception or concern that this was being rushed through. So along those lines, I want to say that I am opposed to this being on the presidential primary. Hopefully that'll relieve some of those issues. I have always, and Commissioner Owen was first one to talk about letting the people decide. I have always taken that position when it's an issue of this, of real significance. I took that position several times with respect to the transportation tax issue, and candidly caught a lot of heat for taking that position, just for letting the people vote. Now, for the purpose of today, I mean, I can count. I support continuing the discussion and getting additional information, but it's not going to happen today. So I would suggest we just receive the report, bring it back up after we tackle the other more pressing issues such as adopting the budget, addressing the CIT, and then because if this is not considered until next fall's election, there's really no rush to move forward today anyway. And so I think that's based on the discussion and comments, that's likely if we were to move forward on this, it would be next fall. So there's no harm in taking this up at a later date. So with that, Commissioner Owen? Is your hand up? I think it
Yeah,
is.
no, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to my colleagues for all that input. I'm not going to make any type of motion today. If anything, I will agenda an item for board discussion and for a vote. But I'm going to take everything in. The only thing I'll just leave it with is, I don't see this being a ton of work and taking us away from our budget. I mean, it's us voting on a proposed ordinance that would be drafted by our staff. And again, what we're doing is we're allowing the voters to decide. So I guess my final thoughts on it would be, if you're voting no on this, you don't want to get this to the voters, why do you not want to allow the voters of Hillsborough County to decide? This can be in a primary, it can be a general. I'm open to all that stuff. I agree. I don't want this to be to cost the taxpayers any additional monies. I don't think the PPP election or a special election makes sense as well. But I will. I'll just move to receive the report, and I will bring something here in the future. And thank you all for the discussion.
Okay, we got a motion to receive the report by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Myers. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. Bonnie.
The final item are future discussion items.
Commissioner Owen, you usually have a bunch. Do you
I
have,
don't
you have
today.
any?
I'm good today.
You're good, okay.
Yes, I have one.
Commissioner Cameron Spada.
Yes, so throughout the ongoing budget process, and this is my first one here in the county, I've been looking for ways to address the critical shortfalls in basic services such as roads and public safety. One area I'm interested in learning more about is the county's various arts programs and funding associated with those programs. For example, I saw the Arts Council was budgeted for over $1 million in this fiscal year 23. I also saw where the county budgeted over $2 million for the Cultural Assets Program in this fiscal year 23. While I believe the arts are an important part of our community, I'm not convinced the county should be using public money to support those programs on the scale we have over the years. One question I have is how much support do our local arts organizations get from private sector versus the county's public funded programs? I believe the private sector and philanthropic organizations should provide nearly all support for the arts in our community with only minimal public dollars. And I realize these programs have been around for some time. However, the issue for me is whether funding the arts program is more important than providing basic services such as roads and public safety. And to help us all understand this issue better, I would like to receive a staff report on the total amount of county funding provided to the Arts Council and to the Cultural Asset Program over the last 5 years. I also would like to know if there is anything keeping the board from reallocating funding currently budgeted for the Arts Council and Cultural Asset Program, so we could instead put these dollars toward our shortfalls in the county's basic services like transportation and public safety. I would like this report on September 7th board agenda, so we may use this information during our final deliberations about the upcoming final budget for the next fiscal year. And finally, I want to say that I am open to restoring some funding for the arts after we address the basic services needs in our community. If that's after 2 or 3 years, that will be wonderful. If it's after 5 or 10 years, then if that's what it takes, if we're serious about meeting our critical infrastructure and public safety needs, and that's where I want to focus over the next few years.
Do you have that?
We do, and we'll do our best to get it to the September 7th meeting. We are a little fortunate that we have 3 weeks between this meeting, but it will be tight.
Okay. Any other items? If not, we're adjourned.